A beautiful Tuesday morning. My name is Linda Alela and this is Morning Cafe. Karibu sana as we get started and as we get to know what is happening right here in the world of news. Even as we kickstart the day, we have so much lined up for you. We're taking a look at the news stories of the day. We take a look at the newspapers, but we also be taking a look at, these kind of conversations that are of importance to you. And so this morning, we discuss the hustlers versus the dynasties. We'll also take a look at just brief look of the Nairobi politics, and importantly, we need to understand why are shots fired at the DP, the president, Kalonzo, ANC, name them. Just what is being planned in politics game plan over 2022. We also do not forget to address the crisis that continues right here in the country on matters health, even as we delve deep into a different conversations altogether on investment, on matters land. I know we always say that every other time we're excited when we hear that we have to invest on matters land, but just how much knowledge do we have of the same is all we're telling you later on. So welcome on board. It's always good to have you. We also take a look at what is happening on the roads, and importantly, we give you that quote of the day. It's always good to start the day rejuvenated words that get you to that point where you know what, you have to make decisions and you understand these words and they resonate with you and they dig deep into your heart, giving you direction. So karibu sana. And what we'd love for you to do is simply be part and parcel of this conversation. The hashtag is Morning Cafe, and Twitter handle at Linda_Alela TV47KE equally on Facebook. You can interact with us TV47, and we'd love to sample some of your feedback as we get to proceed with the show. Let's briefly take a look at what the newspapers have this morning, and this is the People Daily, the Standard newspaper, and the Daily Nation. As always, what do we have on the Daily Nation? This is the Daily Nation. Uhuru fires at Ruto. I think that's what I had touched on. President launches full-blown attack on his deputy over the 2022 politics, and that is one thing that we'll be looking at. And he says keen to address concerns that he has been laid back and hands off in the succession politics of the vote-rich Mount Kenya. This is a story captured on page 4. This is upon that conversation that he had with the vernacular station, that is the Kikuyu vernacular stations across the country. But away from it, yes, Kalonzo equally has come out guns blazing, or better said bare knuckle, as the Daily Nation would put it. War of words. Wiper Democratic Movement leader Kalonzo Musyoka and Deputy President William Ruto are knocked in an all-out political war after, that submission, or after that push coming from the Wiper Party leader, saying that there is need for some of these leaders to come out transparent and submit lifestyle audits in regards to what it is that they have. And the question then is, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that the DP is not a straightforward person? And if it is so, then this should be challenged, or this should be addressed in court, and you can only term them guilty if proven guilty. So yes, also we get to understand that as we delve deep in the conversation. But away from it, pretty much unfortunate story here. Macabre confession of killing, witchcraft. What suspect is a gruesome killing of 9-year-old girl told the police. There's a story captured on page 3, and we've witnessed some of these cases recently, which is something that has been condemned, has been castigated for quite a long while, and this is what has been happening. We get to understand what really could have informed some of these issues. But away from it, I think that is what is on the Daily Nation. I'll be looking at it later on. The Lost Boys culture cash keep children out of school. That is also a story that is there in regards to what is happening on matters education upon that reopening process of schools. And away from it, Learned Friends squabble. Law Society of Kenya suspects 10 council members in heated chaotic convention, or suspends them actually, and called to sort out differences that have threatened to stall operations. That is also in the corridors of justice, or in the world of law. And away from it, also in matters education, assessment faces hitches Logistical challenges delay the start of the national assessment of primary learners, as of course this process started yesterday. We'll be looking at that later on. But also what is on the Standard newspaper. And Kananu right here, swearing in as city governor halted. Here is one that will also be delving deep into understanding the power play that plays out in Nairobi. We've been following up on this story for quite a while right now, and we would love to see what it is that the courts will declare on this. A story captured on page 8. Kalonzo takes on Ruto over land grab claims, and a tough call for Uhuru succession question with a restive, Mount Kenya. Backyard president turns vernacular radio stations to trash hustler narrative, make impassioned plea for support for BBI, and to declare that he is yet to pick his successor. That is a story captured on page 2 of the Standard newspaper. State bans direct sale of local teas. That is also an interesting one in the world of business. And bleak times and silver lining for 200 billion industries. This also on matters entertainment. The entertainment industry continues to be bedeviled, especially at that point of the knock or coming in of COVID-19. Some of them have called on the president to try and do something so at least he would be able to, open activities, because then the industry is reeling so hard. Right here is the People Daily. As we try to open the People Daily, here we are. Countdown to inauguration. Washington under watch of thousands of National Guard troops ahead of Biden and Kamala's swearing in a nation still rattled by January 6th attack of the Capitol, that is in the United States. A story captured on page 8 and 9 of the People Daily. We'll be following up on this also to give you updates on what is happening or what will be happening in the world's largest democracy. But away from it, of course, not to forget that indeed after this attack on the Capitol, the question is whether indeed it is the world's largest, democratic space, or whether they can lecture different nations on matters of democracy. But away from it, Ruto's latest move to consolidate Rift Valley. Deputy President William Ruto has lately been quoting some of his opponents, the latest being former Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto and West Pokot County Chief John Lonyangapuo. But just how instrumental is this towards garnering himself more votes on the matters of 2022 also is one thing that many would love to watch and, just delve deep into getting analysis of it. Kananu inches closer to top seat as LSK rushes to court. And after rushing to court, the court quashed this process. And of course, we are set to get the hearing later on. That is on January the 28th. A story captured on page 8. What does it mean for the people of Nairobi? Is there going to be a by-election as LSK is calling for? We can only wait to see. Uhuru, stolen cash being used to fight BBI. President rallies his Mount Kenya support base around unity project, and he says it's the best outcome for the region as he dismisses Ruto and his allies for opposing initiative promoting hustler versus dynasty narratives. A story captured on page 6 of the People Daily. We'll also be looking at that extensively later on as we proceed. What is on page 2? Matters education. Yes, restore registrar or we strike warns not. Yes, the stalemate continues on matters education. Uhuru Day Scholars School. The scholars should not be sent home for fees. Well, this is what the government says, but we have certainly seen what has been happening, and most of the students have literally been sent home even after that declaration by the state or by the Ministry of Education that no student is going to be sent home because of school fees. So we'll be looking at that as we proceed. Killers of GSU officer. Yes, this is pretty much of an unfortunate occurrence that played out at the Capado or in the Capado. Interior Cabinet Secretary has sounded a stern warning to bandits who gunned down the officer, saying they will face full force of the law. This is happening again. The Capado is not doing so well, and there's need that this is equally addressed. As we drop that one, We briefly go to the roads and see what is happening down there. And the roads this morning, not so ugly as they would say. We are starting off at Westlands, Nairobi. Let's start off right here, the central bit, and we can see some bit of traffic. What is this direction where there's some bit of traffic? Here we are. There's a bit of traffic on this particular direction of South B as you're headed to town. And so if you're taking that direction, that should be Mombasa Road, yes. You need to know that this is some of the expectations that you have this morning as you are headed to the city. Yes, this is Mombasa Road. And yes, there's so much traffic actually along Mombasa Road, coming all the way from these sides of Syokimau and going down to around Samia Park there. That is GM. As you get to connect to Cabanas, you can tell that there's traffic right here as you come towards Imara Daima. So if you're taking that direction, you know what to expect going all the way down to the Samia Business Park. This is Mombasa Road, and then this eases a bit and taking you all the way as you're headed to town. Then you come somewhere around here and you get some bit of traffic again, and that is around the area of Capital. So if you're taking that direction, you know what to expect. This is a bit of traffic. This is around Nyayo Stadium, and so a bit of traffic as you get into the city, and then it eases up and you come all the way. It is pretty much of an ease. And away from Mombasa Road, you can see the southern bypass is not bad this morning, all the way the southern bypass. Oh, actually, and then when it comes to connect to Mombasa Road, like I said, there's some bit of traffic around here. So if you're taking this direction, you're somewhere around Imara Daima, you know what to expect this morning. Let's go down to Embakasi and take Outer Ring Road. There's some bit of traffic, spots where you find traffic around Outer Ring Road. And so if you're taking that direction this morning, also you know what to expect, but it is not badly off going all the way to Allsops. As you take those sides of Kariobangi North, and you come and get connected to Thika Road, that is around Allsops, and not so bad in terms of traffic. Drive-in area is not bad. Let's go down a bit to the sides of Survey and going on to these sides where you get to connect to Muthaiga Road. There's a bit of traffic when you get somewhere around Pangani, so you know what to expect as you get to go right inside the city. Then it becomes more of an ease. Ngara is not badly off this morning, so you can be rest assured that, well, if you step out of the house right now, you might be lucky enough to get to your destination before it is too late. Downwards, let's see whether it is badly off. Kiambu Road is an ease this morning. Kiambu Road is not so bad going all the way. As you can see, this is it. So it's pretty much of an ease this morning. No cause for alarm on the roads. This is, let's go down a bit on Thika Road and see whether there's another spot where there's traffic. Well, no. This is Githurai Market and going all the way, not much of traffic. Somewhere around the car wash there, Clay Works is where you can get some traffic, but it is moving on well. And we have looked at what is around Outer Ring Road, but this side of Donholm, yes, equally some bit of traffic somewhere around here. Umoja, that is around Manyanja Road, but it is not so bad this morning. Let's take a look at a different direction altogether. And here we are, Westlands, where we are, Mpisha, all these directions, that is Parklands. Ojijo Road is not bad this morning. This is around Chiromo. Some bit down here, you get to see State House Road is also not bad this morning. And Gong Road is pretty much of an ease this morning. Well, and this is Mombasa Road, yes. And so let's see this at the side. Langata Road is good this morning. This is Langata Road all the way as it connects to the bypass. Pretty good this morning, so no cause for alarm in most of these key road. Gong Road is not so bad this morning also, so we'll be here to update you. Yes, this is around Gong Road. It's also not so bad as you are headed to the CBD. So really no cause for alarm on the roads. In the event that there's something, as I always say, I'll be here to keep you posted. Let's drop what is happening on the roads and briefly take a look at the day's quote. We said we'll be bringing you this every other day. So at least you're able to get that moment of motivation when you get these words. And we always say words are very powerful. Sometimes we tend to forget how powerful we are until some of these words are spoken out. And when they are spoken out, they remind you of the battle, they remind you of how capable you are. So let's listen in to the quote of the day.
Quote of the day. No one is perfect. That's why pencils have erasers.
Simple as that. We hope that message is home. And away from the quote of the day, it's now time that we look at the stories prepared by my team. And the story that we had touched on Matters newspaper, police have launched a manhunt for a group of armed bandits that attacked a team of security officers from the Rapid Deployment Unit in Ameyen area at the Baringo-Turkana border. The government has strongly condemned yesterday's attack, that is the day before yesterday, that claimed a police officer. Mudhoni Minor reports.
Speaking at the regional offices in Nakuru, Natembeya confirmed that the Deputy Director of Operations was attacked and killed as he was planning on how to relocate the current General Service Unit camp from Kapedo village to a more strategic location. Interior CS Fred Matiang'i has condemned the attack on the security personnel, terming the attack as predetermined, cold-blooded, heinous attack on security personnel. Matiang'i adding that initial investigations revealed that the ambush took place against the backdrop of a ritual ceremony in which organized bandits were intentionally charged and adjured by some traditional leaders. According to Natembeya, 2 other officers are fighting for their lives in various hospitals after sustaining gunshot wounds, insisting that they were not on any operations. He noted that the matter was a blatant show of impunity, saying the same will be crushed with the necessary force to ensure no life is lost. 3 members of parliament, James Lomenen of Turkana South, John Lodepe of Turkana Central, and Mohammed Ali of Turkana East, are still stranded in the area. The lawmakers are now appealing to be evacuated. Locals have been warned against siding with goons challenging the government. Mudhoni Minor, TV 47.
The High Court has temporarily suspended the swearing-in of Nairobi Deputy Governor Anne Kananu as the Governor of Nairobi. The Law Society of Kenya, LSK, and the Kenya Human Rights Commission have filed 2 cases challenging Kananu's assumption of office as governor hours after she assumed that office in an acting capacity. Mwangi Minor reports.
I, Anne Kananu Mwenda, do swear
2 days after she assumed office as a Nairobi County Deputy Governor, it was all systems go for Anne Kananu Mwenda to ascend to the helm of City Hall as Nairobi County Governor, following the expiry of 60 days, which Speaker Benson Motora has been acting as governor, or before the lapse of the 60 days. Hours after assuming the governor's office in an acting capacity, Kananu's assumption of office as a governor now hangs in the balance after the High Court issued conservatory orders stopping the swearing-in of Kananu after the Kenya Human Rights Commission rushed to court, stopping any attempt to swear her in as a city governor.
We had already passed the stage of the county assembly approving a nominee for deputy governor. We already have a date set for the by-election. And how did we arrive at that state of affairs? We arrived at that state of affairs because by the time the impeachment decision was being made against Governor Mike Sonko by the Senate, there was no substantive deputy governor of Nairobi.
Speaker Benson Motora relinquished his duties as acting governor, paving way for Kananu's smooth transition.
I now therefore relinquish my acting as the governor of Nairobi City County and resume my duties as the Speaker of the Nairobi County Assembly and allow Her Excellency Madam Anne Mwenda Kananu to proceed and assume the office of the governor in a substantive manner.
Kananu says her focus is to bring together a new spirit of cooperation, as well as partnership with different arms of government, including the Nairobi Metropolitan Services.
For avoidance of doubt, my principal partner in delivering services in Nairobi is the Director General of Nairobi Metropolitan Services, Major General Mohammed Badi, and his team. Nairobi is now back on course and will remain on course.
As a manager, Kananu says she is not a politician and has no intentions of becoming one. However, only time will tell, since her office is purely political. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
The Council of Governors has been castigated by various trade unions for failing to take up its role in ensuring that the unending nurses strike finally comes to a complete halt. The National Nurses Union, however, says it is open for talks with individual county governments, with 10 of them already settling on the negotiating table, as Nano Cloren tells us.
As the nurses' nationwide strike enters its 42nd day, the Council of Governors is still rigid in finalizing the return to work agreement, a step that will see the unending strike come to an end. The Council is now facing criticism from the trade union KOTU and has been instructed to take up its duties of resolving the strike, which has paralyzed health operations in public facilities.
But Oparanya to say, I will not pay, as if the government budget allocation, the money that comes from taxpayers, are his own personal money. That was wrong. It's unacceptable, and I want to ask the government to ask the chairman of the Council of Governors to take personal responsibility on what is happening.
And if the council does not resolve the nurses' strike, even as it claims the matter is in the hands of the national government, the National Union of Nurses has alluded that the council has no value to Kenyans and is as good as dead.
You are holding the position of the chair of the Council of Governors on behalf of Kenyans. And if you say that the Council of Governors cannot handle a national issue that is running across the country, then we do not see the justification to continue having this thing called Council of Governors. It must then be disbanded because it has outlived its usefulness.
On Monday morning, President Uhuru Kenyatta made it clear that the striking health workers are on their own and are working under the county governments and not the national government. Among the demands nurses won't fulfill before returning to work include the 4 kinds of risk allowances, contrary to 16 risk allowances Governor Wycliffe Oparanya alleged they are demanding.
It is wrong for the governor to say that we are getting 16 allowances. I'm a senior nurse. I'm getting only 4 allowances, 3 of which are allowances which are common to almost every public servant. The only special allowance I'm getting is a nursing service allowance. Where did the governor for Kakamega come up with those 16 allowances he's talking about?
However, the union has stated its readiness to engage peaceful talks with individual county governments. Already 10 devolved governments, including Nyeri County, have begun their one-on-one peaceful talks with the nurses union in a bid to end a stalemate.
Already 10 governors have reached to us. They want us to have a county-based agreement based on what has been agreed at the national level. And I can be very sure that before the end of the week, we can have about 10 county governments signing a return to work agreement with this union, with the terms and conditions as agreed, and even if there will be a little modification, we will accept at that level.
Nano Cloren, TV47.
And Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has attacked Deputy President William Ruto on alleged land-grabbing allegations against him. Dismissing the allegations, the Wiper Party boss further challenged DP Ruto to present himself for scrutiny on the sources of his wealth in a lifestyle audit. Musa Salah with the details.
Kama wewe umekuwa mjumbe, umekuwa kiongozi, ukawa naibu wa rais, ukawa waziri katika karibu wizara zote, alafu ile record uko naye ni moja peke yake, eti mahali unaishi ilikuwa ni shamba ya serikali, huna record ingine.
In what was perhaps a warning to Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, Deputy President William Ruto on Friday made these allegations that have since not sitted well with the Wiper Party leader. Kalonzo inviting the Directorate of Criminal Investigations DCI and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC to investigate the matter.
The allegations are a cheap and a desperate attempt at character assassination. I have nothing to hide, and I today challenge the authorities to open an investigation into this matter. I am today presenting myself for a thorough investigation by the Directorate of Criminal Investigation as well as the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission.
Kalonzo also challenging DP Ruto to present himself to the investigative agencies to answer on the several allegations facing the Deputy President.
I challenge DP Ruto alias Arap Mashamba, well known for his unbridled greed for both public and private land, to offer himself for investigation concerning the following scandals that are in the public domain.
Some of the allegations that have come to haunt DP Ruto include the alleged grabbing of Kenya's first Vice President Joseph Murumbi's land, the Langata Primary School and Weston Hotel lands, as well as the alleged takeover of a 100-acre parcel of land belonging to Adrian Muteshi. Kalonzo also wants DP Ruto to explain the whereabouts of more than 300 million shillings that was allegedly swindled from Makindu Motors by unknown individuals who claim to have come from Ruto's office. Ruto is also expected to explain how he acquired large tracts of land in Taita Taveta, as well as his knowledge about the fake firearms deal that led to the death of Sergeant Kipyegon Kenei, a police officer attached to DP Ruto's office. The recent camera scandal that allegedly led to the alleged suicide of DP Ruto's bodyguard and the loss of some 4 billion shillings meant to construct the Aurora and Kimwarer dams have also taken center stage in the latest political strife between Ruto and Musyoka.
I urge Arap Mashamba to stop being hypocritical and to take responsibility for his misdeeds, which stink to the high heavens.
Kalonzo also called out Ruto for encouraging divisive politics.
It is so sad to know that DP Ruto has been fomenting bitter divisions and he did a class war instead of preaching unity. People of DP Ruto's ilk must not be given the chance to wreak havoc through hoofishly deceitful manipulations. They must be stopped on their tracks.
With Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka coming out gun-blazing at Deputy President William Ruto for alleged land grabbing, all eyes are now on Deputy President William Ruto to shed more light on Kalonzo's Yatta farm. Musa Salah, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, Ford Kenya and the Amani National Congress, ANC, have pledged to conduct joint campaigns in the forthcoming Matungu and Kabuchai constituency by-elections, that is in a bid to unite the Luhya nation. This as the Electoral Commission clears a number of candidates for various by-elections in the country.
In now what seems to be the beginning of a bare-knuckled fight against the dynasty versus hustler nation narrative, President Uhuru Kenyatta expressed his distaste for the narrative, citing that it was destined to divide the country even further and threaten national development. The president adding that despite majority of Kenya's youthful population being jobless, politicians should not incite them against the rich. With the rift between the president and his deputy now seemingly deepening by the day, Kenyatta hinted a blow to the hustler nation who continue to transverse across the country, promoting an all-inclusive government with Ruto as the flag bearer come 2022. Uhuru, however, dismissed their campaigns, citing those campaign trails were filled with insults. He said, and I quote, "They think that if they continue insulting me, I will send officers to arrest them. I am where I am until when my term is over. I am busy working for the nation." End quote. Warning the Mount Kenya region against being divided.
Kwina andu mena bata muno kurehe mugayukanio thini wa andu aitu no urigayagirwo ukerwo ke ciringi ciaku 10 wethi ukeke uguo ke ciaku 20 thi ukahure uria ke ici ciaku 100 rimwe geke hari uria.
The head of state also defended the BBI push, terming it as a quest to unite the country. He continued to say, and I quote, "I have never declared BBI to be a battle for 2022 or for building this politician or destroying anyone. My goal is peace and unity for Kenyans," end quote. Kenyatta went ahead to tackle the issue of cost of a referendum despite the economical challenges faced in the country.
Tiga ukaha kuhingisha iria maiyaga o muthenya ni ikirite billion icio igire andu aya ni buri.
On matters Nairobi is now tangling leadership, the head of state admitted to have instigated the removal of former close ally, former governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko from office due to his consistent wrangles, further mentioning the big role he played in getting him elected only to let him down. Despite the heavy backlash the president continues to face in his backyard, he urged Mount Kenya residents to support his development cause through the initiative as it was the best solution for Kenya. Ruth Mulandi, TV47.
Well, we're set for a very interesting conversation this morning. Some of the stories that I've already taken you through are the same that will be informing the conversation and this particular morning. And indeed, we'll also be looking at the papers. My guests already in studio. Youth Policy Analyst Gloria Oruoba. We also have Solomon Kuria, Political Analyst. And importantly, we'll be having Dr. Moses Mwangi, Governance Expert, joining us. So they are on standby. And it is important that we take a short breather as we fix all this and we come back for more.
Strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant. And the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant. And the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
As earlier mentioned, Gloria Oruoba, youth policy analyst, and Solomon Korea, political analyst, are with us in studio as we await Dr. Moses. But importantly, we'll first of all take a look at what has been captured on the newspapers briefly, and then we get into the discussion. As mentioned earlier on, it's going to be a very interesting discussion, so we'd love for you to start interacting with us. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela at TV47KE. Dr. Moses is coming in, and so we get to introduce him later on. But first, ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana. Good to have you. We had actually started the debate even before it started. So that's the reason why I can almost guarantee you that it's going to be a very good one. But to the papers first, countdown to inauguration. That is the United States, Washington, under watch of thousands of National Guard troops ahead of Biden and Kamala's swearing in tomorrow in our nation still rattled by January 6th attack on the Capitol. We are interested to see what the Biden's presidency brings to the people. In most cases, interestingly, some of these United States presidents are always considered to be the presidents of the world, so to speak. I think so.
Personally, I'm just excited to see Kamala Harris being sworn in.
Yes,
yeah?
As a woman.
It's just a breath of fresh air. And that to me is, that was the biggest win for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to that. Solomon?
We just got rid of I can't breathe phrase. It's just gone. And good riddance.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, and all the best to them, and we'll be following up on that. I don't think there's anything much to speak about this apart from the actual day when we'll be giving you details of how this ceremony will play out. This in regards to what is enshrined in the laws of the United States. Ruto's latest move to consolidate Rift Valley, and Deputy President William Ruto has lately been courting some of his opponents, the latest being former Bonet Governor that is Isaac Ruto and West Pokot County Chief John Lonyangapuo. What they are bringing on the table is one thing that many keep asking about. And here we are. We are set to see lots of defection. We are set to see lots of realignments before 2022. Do you suppose that then these gentlemen are going to bring anything better or anything good for the DP's camp or hustler narrative, which has really gained, over time? And speaking of Isaac Ruto in particular, many argue that he probably did not do much for NASA to a point where he noticed this and said, you know what, let me exit the stage. Has he brought anything on board for the DP?
I don't think, because as you have realized, the Deputy President has gone back to his backyard. And as you have seen also, Wetangula, Mudavadi, Kalonzo, everyone is going back home. Because that is how we are. And we have no apologies to anyone for being like that way. We start at the local level and then come up.
Yeah.
So unfortunately for DP, he is going back to ground zero. And we have been telling him to go back there. He has been claiming to be the Mount Kenya kingpin.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
has he been claiming?
He has now realized that,
You have to go back home.
I have to go home.
Entice people at home.
Yes, that's why he's doing this. And I don't think Isaac or anyone joining him is like trying to preach to a converted Christian.
Okay.
Or maybe a Muslim for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
You don't gain too much. This one is from his backyard. There is no any vote that is coming out of any other place. In any case, what Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto got from Bomet, from Kericho, South Rift, there's no vote that is going to be new.
Well, what they would say is that for any political contender, one vote is magical, is huge,
Every
and probably
vote counts.
Every vote counts.
Every vote counts.
Yes.
And some people, whether it is Isaac Ruto or like you said, dead on arrival, people like Peter Kenneth, they still have 3 or 4 people out there who will vote for them. So I think every vote counts, and I don't think it's a matter of him feeling the need to go back home, because Rift Valley is consolidated. It's Team William Ruto. I think this is also a message. And again, remember, we are in the transfer window.
Yes.
This is where all the politicians are trying to test the waters. Where are their interests going to be covered? So the message for me would not be the fact that it's Isaac Ruto or is back in Rift Valley, but it is also what that the symbol of even those who thought that they would defy, this Hustler Nation movement from Rift Valley have actually come to the realization that it is gaining ground. It makes sense. We are moving to a place where we want economic empowerment for all. And so therefore, ukisikia ground imesema, this is what the people want, and you're a politician trying to have that business continuity and career development, you would be a fool. You'd be a fool not to get on board. And I can promise you that's the reason why at the beginning, when this thing started catching on, this hustler narrative, you remember even the likes of Raila Odinga came out and said, we are also hustlers. They were trying to get on board. They said, we are also hustlers. Don't look at us as dynasties. All of them came out and said, their parents hustled, and so therefore by extension, they're hustlers. Everybody's trying to get on this ship that they don't really, some of them don't really understand what it is about.
You should look at Solomon and his reactions, and it's like, no way.
I'm giving Solomon time,
As a matter of fact, let me tell you, he went back simply because the president said, you have been preaching a narrative out there, hustlers versus dynasties. If that is the logic or the thinking, then I can say, then 2 tribes have ruled Kenya for 57 years.
Hold it right there. Let's not get into this discussion, because it is what we'll be discussing this morning.
Back home.
So he went back home. Wait a minute. And Dr. Moses Mwangi is on standby. Good to have you in studio, sir.
Thank you.
Karibu sana.
It's also good for me to come and meet all these good people.
Yes.
And to talk to your viewers, who I want to greet this morning and wish you a beautiful day.
Yes, and indeed, as we look forward to a beautiful day, we get into the discussion. And Dr. Moses, we're looking at the newspapers. And interesting to note is that, yes, we've witnessed some differences and changes that have culminated. And this is normal, especially, in an active political scenario. And this moving of the likes of, former Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto to this wing of the hustler narrative. It's just the other day, it's barely months. And we had seen Isaac Ruto, doing very well in terms of aligning himself with President Uhuru Kenyatta and, the handshake and, the conversation of the BBI. What could have informed this? What really does the Hustler Nation have to offer that, the likes of Isaac Ruto would look at it as a necessary step to make?
Well, possibly, I think that's a conversation we should have. What is Hustler Nation? It's a narrative. It's a narrative that people are getting on board without even knowing what it has.
Yeah.
But I think from a political perspective, Isaac Ruto is aligning himself with the people who are on the ground, who have been moved. And if you find yourself alone in a corner and you live in a community, then if you are singing a song, if you start singing a song, and even if you have hit the right note, but the rest of the people respond in a different note, completely off tune,
yes,
and you continue to sing in your very good tune, then you are seen as the one spoiling the song.
Okay.
So I think that is what Isaac Ruto has done. He has he probably has just decided to sing the note that the people are singing, even though it may be off key, but everybody seems to be singing that in his backyard.
All right.
So I think from a political perspective, he's just following the weed.
This is evidently a tribal affair?
They're trying to make it a tribal affair, but you know, the reason I resonate with this Hustler Nation narrative is because for a very long time, actually, there has been that gap. There has been that gap of those who've, David put it very well yesterday, said those who've been oppressed and the oppressors. Now, when you talk about being oppressed, it's actually a systematic kind of oppression, where that even if you're a hard-working entrepreneur and you're really trying to get your business out there and you're really trying to, you know, push your products, get those tenders from government or corporate world, you'll find that there's an inner circle cartel. So when you're talking about the hustlers versus the dynasties, it's not really what they're trying to push it and this fear they're trying to sell in terms of, you know, there'll come a time when even when you are seen driving a car, they will burn your car. No, people understand that there are those who've really worked hard to try and get the little that they've had. But there are those who've literally been born into the inner circle cartel. When you look at government tenders, who are getting these government tenders, and you follow the trace of how this person was able to actually be shortlisted in that tender, you'll find that it's cronyism. You'll find that the person who's actually being awarded is it's not of hard work or merit. They're actually being awarded because of who they know, because of who their father is, because of which family name they hold. And those are that is what to me resonates as a dynasty. A person who was born into the privileged and does not really understand that there are those who are placing their hard work, placing putting their best foot forward, but systematic oppression by the inner circle is actually blocking them from being prosperous in this country.
The people who are selling this narrative of the dynasty, the hustler, it looks like we're already into the discussion. Honestly, Gloria, honestly, with all due respect, have got nothing to do with tenets of being hustlers. And I mean, especially going by what it is that you've said, some of the things that you've mentioned, honestly, if you look at the people who are propagating this, they really do not have these tenets in
I'm going to challenge you and ask you who do you think does not fit into the hustler category, so that maybe I might define
I'd probably
what
not be in a position to answer that, but I'll allow Solomon to answer that. I mean, just look at, say, the Tanga wing.
Yes.
Who are the very same people who are speaking of the hustler narrative.
Yes.
Really, do they all fit into that? Or into what they are trying to speak about?
Maybe it's important to define who a hustler is.
Yes, it's very, in fact, that was my first question.
Yeah, let's define who a hustler is.
Who is a hustler?
This is modern terminology of saying a person who, despite what you would like to say, lack of their name or the opportunities that were just, you know, thrown to them, they actually had to work hard, through merit, through, you know, you can say you are connected, but Linda, to be honest, it's like taking 5 interns. All of us have the same opportunity. We are put into management in a bank, and we are told, okay, you know what, this is now your turn to, of those 5 people, whether we are all from a privileged family, 2 or 3 people will actually
stand out.
Yeah, will stand out.
Okay.
And why will they stand out? Because of their hard work, because of their persistent towards just chasing that success they're looking for. But then you'll find, even from those 5 interns maybe who've been put in a bank, that one who will not stand out based on their character, because their father is the manager of that bank, ends up being boosted. And that is the simple understanding of what we are trying to the clear picture of what we are trying to say. We are fighting systematic oppression that has been created.
We honestly do not want to start naming names, because we all know all these people who are in the hustler, you know, train. So, Solomon, I'll allow you to come in.
I would like to start by saying, you know, she has alluded to something I didn't want to go to, trying to give definition.
Yes, who is a hustler, who is a dynasty?
And you know, when you define something, it is logical and it is ethical to define the source of your definition.
Yes.
Is it from Oxford Dictionary? Is it from Longhorn Dictionary?
Yeah.
If we go to all of them,
yes, none of them.
What is the definition of hustler?
Yes.
And we know the definition. I don't want to go to that because there is, it's a very, very bad
We will go to that and we'll project this. Let's use the basic that is here.
Yes. Just get the meaning of
Let's just take the basic that is online.
Yes. Just read it for everyone so that we
If you refer to someone as a hustler, you mean that they try to earn money or gain an advantage from situations they are in by using dishonest or illegal methods. Well, and I think this is one of the key things that has gotten the Hustler Nation being, pointed figures at. And we probably cannot say that this is cast in stone, that it is exactly this, because there are a couple of other things.
By asking who is a Christian according to the Oxford Dictionary.
Okay.
Who is a Christian?
It's a whole different affair.
It's a whole different affair.
We say today.
When you go to the Oxford Dictionary and look at who is a Christian, and you look at the definition they're putting there, and the definition that most Christians in this country, and literally 80% of Kenyans say I'm a Christian, they are two different things. So we are not bound.
What it is that they do.
We are not bound to the Oxford Dictionary. We are not bound to that.
This is foreign language.
Right.
So we cannot be experts to a foreign language.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can only speak about what we know.
Yes.
Ask me about Gikuyu, I will tell you. But about hustler, I can only refer to the definition by the British themselves.
Because that is
the language is from there. And they
have
have told us, in fact, they have even gone further and said, it's not only obtaining through dishonest means. Someone else has defined it as, a hustler being a prostitute or something else.
Yes.
We must be careful of the words we pick, and then we make them, like fit into a political.
And speaking of which, then I'd ask
and divert the true meaning.
Yes.
But you asked a very valid question. Does anyone, preaching that gospel of the hustler fit into the definition, or maybe the definition that they have, which is, I'm a poor person. I'm a person who struggles to get food to put on the table. And I'll tell you, none of them.
But that is not the definition
starting
of the
by the chief priest, William Samoei Ruto himself. A guy who flies helicopters right, left, and center.
Okay.
A guy who has put up a home in Sugoi worth 1.2 billion Kenya shillings. A guy who has a taste for big machines. Right now he's driving, I think, LX 570, KCU, a vehicle worth over 40 million.
All of them are in 4x4, hustlers and dynasties. Let's allow Dr. Mwangi to
there's nothing.
On the record, that is not the definition
that is
of the hustler.
Not,
it's not it's not about the poor people.
We'll come to you. Yes. We'll come to you, Gloria. And before we take a break, in 1 minute, Dr. Moses, in a minute or so, just try to say something small about this conversation that we're having right now, because evidently we've gotten into it even before it was time.
Now, as a nationalist and as a person who has been in this country,
yes,
who believes in meritorious system,
yeah,
it's very sad that we are having this conversation. I read a book written by George Owen called Animal Farm. And in Animal Farm, Jones, who was the owner of the farm and who was looking after his animals, the animals revolted and they overturned his kingdom.
Right.
And what happened when they took over? The pigs became the masters. And the system was worse than the beginning. So for me, if you ask me, this conversation is driving Kenyans out of the real issues.
Okay.
What are the real issues that are facing Kenyans? Right now, somebody who gets sick cannot get proper health care. We have children now who are in college. They don't have even the money to go to college.
Yeah.
We have situations, it is true what my sister has said here. We have had a scenario where you have youth empowerment, you have government allowing youth to access resources. What is this that has prevented the youth from getting resources? What are the issues that are facing our nation?
Right.
So that as we go forward, the leaders who have these solutions emerge. So people have changed the narrative. They are bringing things which are neither here nor there. It's another Animal Farm situation. And for me, I would rather we are talking about the challenges that our nation is facing and looking at going forward, how can we change things? Because we have had these 10 years, we had the previous 10 years. It is time for change. And people who have been there, even look at Isaac Ruto, I have no issue about him. He was governor, he was MP. William Ruto has been MP from 97 up to now.
What?
So, it's the same story of Animal Farm.
Okay.
And, you know, the danger that we face is that as Kenyans, we will miss the point. We will miss the opportunity to seize the moment of how our country can move forward.
All right, but then we will ask ourselves
things which are neither here nor there.
Well, in most cases, they say some of these things that crop up, however ugly they might be, are the very same things that bring up these conversations. And maybe that's why we have it this morning. And then we will take a short break. We'll come back and get to understand that how then do we have these conversations, as healthy or unhealthy as they may be, but we get to that point where we do not miss out on the key issues after the break.
When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant and the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
Of untold stories.
Welcome back to the broadcast. Interestingly, we are still on the newspapers, but equally we have already gotten into the discussion, and so I'll have that moment where the newspapers will guide us into the discussions, because again, some of the issues that have been captured are the very same ones that I had planned for us to discuss this morning. This includes President Uhuru Kenyatta's address to the Mount Kenya region, also to speak yesterday, and also including that conversation of hustlers and dynasties that we had before we went for a break, and importantly, the politics of Nairobi. Still in studio, Dr. Moses Mwangi and Gloria Oroba, and equally Solomon Kuria. Ladies and gentlemen, back to it, and yes, I hope you had finished your line of thought in regards to the hustlers and the dynasties. And this was my point, that in as much as we'd want to say that we're missing out the point, especially when we focus on these sideshows, reality is that that is what makes the politics interesting. Reality is that that is common in the game of politics, because every other, party will always come with their own way of trying to entice the common mwananchi with their words, with the slogans and everything. And so that is where the conversations will always culminate from. But importantly, we need to find a ground where, even as we're having all this, we do not miss out on the most important things. And so, Solomon, first of all, looking at this dynasty and hustler and all that, one would want to ask, what is the difference between these two and what it is that the president spoke about in terms of, getting that aspect of rotational presidency, that aspect of a tribe, which is something that is engraved in us, but we want to run away from, and many equally castigating the president for the same.
What the president wanted people to see, it is that the logic that is being driven by the deputy president, it's unfair to Kenyans. It is unfair to the peace that we have been enjoying in this country. And then he tried also to bring out the aspect of hypocrisy in his deputy president. And I would say right here, right now, the deputy president isn't a hustler. That is number one. Number two, he doesn't even believe in what he says. He's just hoodwinking Kenyans. And I will tell you for a fact, Deputy President is taking us for a ride.
Before we even fire shots, Solomon, allow me to ask this, before we even fire shots on this one, let's just take that scenario of the president and see how he gets to counter that, like you rightfully put it. So do you counter that with something that is more damaging? Because to many, that sounded as, what is this coming from the symbol of unity?
It isn't damaging.
Okay.
It isn't damaging. What he is simply saying, that if you're trying to divide Kenyans into the, hustlers and dynasties, and if that is the logic, if that is the idea Kenyans want to engage in,
then we can counter
then
this with a tribal card?
No, it's not a tribal card.
Okay.
I can also say, he's saying anyone else can say that, okay, you're saying it's hustler versus dynasties. Anyone else can stand up and say, then two tribes have been on power. So he didn't actually say that it is going to be tribal, that he's supporting, the other 40 tribes to come against these two.
Solomon, you need to acknowledge the importance of communication in this case, and the fact that this is the president speaking and not any other.
Let us not misquote.
Okay.
Because I've seen guys misquoting. Because he said, kama hiyo dio logic. You see, kama hiyo dio. He didn't say that mimi kama president nasema. No, he said kama hiyo dio logic na mimi naweza sema.
And you will easily get away with it if this was Solomon speaking, but this is the president, the symbol of unity speaking.
Let me just put clarity out here. I don't expect that our president Uhuru Kenyatta will even understand or would even begin to understand who a hustler is. And this is why he's so frustrated. A person who was born in State House, a person who was raised by a sitting president, a person who only knew chartered flights, and literally when he was in the US, he said, I'd like to do some manual labor to see what that feels like. A person who actually, till his adulthood is when he learned how to speak Swahili. You understand? I don't think this is a person who understands what a hustler, or even the slight definition, or even the inaccurate definition that we have been told we are pushing, he would not understand that. And so his frustration, even with him trying to put that analogy, that if you're trying to define us as hustlers versus dynasties, then I might as well come and say, two tribes versus the other tribes. You see, even the way he's trying to compare this, it shows that he really doesn't understand what's going on.
Why do you suppose the DP understands this more?
I will say this for a fact. It's not only the deputy president, but right now, people on the ground resonate with it because it speaks to the economic injustices that a majority of Kenyans have been undergoing.
Before we get to that, Gloria,
economic injustice.
Before we get to that, Gloria, it's only fair that we look at the people or the first person who's propagating this or who's pushing for this. And we've literally spoken about the president in line with this before we come to you, Dr. Moses. And evidently it is the leader of the Hustler Nation, that is the DP, who's pushing for this.
First
He's
of
been
all,
a member
that's
of
wrong.
parliament.
That's wrong. Let me just clarify that. I was in another station where they said, why can't the youth start thinking from themselves and be influencers and change makers? Why do we keep being pushed into people's narratives? Let me just clarify that on national TV. The narrative of the hustlers versus the dynasty never came from William Ruto. It actually came from youth groups. And I can say openly, he stole it or he borrowed it from us.
All right.
Because he realized, this is what I've been trying to push in terms of economic development. This is just an actual way that resonates with the people. These terminologies that these youth groups are using, mimi ni hustler, mimi ni sewa
So this is technically about what he thinks resonates with the people, and it's got nothing to do with what he is as an individual.
When you're pushing for economic empowerment for those who have been marginalized and oppressed, and you've been using these terminologies that are not resonating with the ground, you've been using this Oxford type of dictionary words which are not resonating with the ground, and then you go to the ground and you hear the youth and you listen to the youth leaders and stuff telling you, we're actually speaking the same language. The only thing is the terminologies.
He's been the minister, he's now the DP, he's supported a dynasty, well, from what we see. In 97, President Moi, 2002, President Uhuru Kenyatta, 2007, at some point, Raila Odinga, 2013 and 2017, President Uhuru Kenyatta. All these are within the dynasties. What do you suppose will inform the change
All
in his
those are not within the dynasties. That is where...
From what he says...
No, let me just clarify because...
Let's allow Dr. Moses
At the end of the day, you're talking about a person who has grown, career development. Started from the bottom, look at where we are now.
So
are you trying to say we are punishing people who are working hard to grow within the career ladder, within politics or otherwise, because they do not belong to certain families?
All right,
So
in this case then, would we say that, well, having looked at his political background and moving forward, he probably has picked lessons and Kenyans can trust, and these hustlers, the people who are struggling down on ground, can trust the DP to bring change? Dr. Moses?
Well, I think if you can look at a balance of issues, we would say that the real owners of hustler, the common people, the youth groups, this was their idea, which has been stolen,
borrowed,
and politicized.
Not stolen.
Borrowed.
Well,
change makers.
Please give me a chance. I am using my words, not yours. I'm saying it has been stolen, and somebody is running away with it, and it is resonating, and it is making people believe that, wow, we are in the right thing. Let me say this. I wore my first pair of shoes when I was going to high school. Only because the school I was going to, Alliance High School, required that you go there with a pair of shoes. I am a doctor. I've worked in the healthcare system. I am working. I believe in merit. Yet, I have a problem with political leaders who have been in place for the longest time I know, to begin to imagine that they are the change that the real hustlers are looking for. I have a problem with that. And for me, I would rather we are having a conversation of how the downtrodden, the farmers in my county who need to sell coffee. I went to school because of coffee. How can we make coffee work better? The tea. How can we make the trade and the transactions that take place between private sector and government work well? I dare say some of the people pushing the hustler movement have not gone through that. They have actually taken advantage of systems that were not properly checked and took advantage, and they got rich very, very quickly. They are at the top of the ladder. It is true they came from there, but the way they got there is not how the mama boga, the real hustler, how the youth who is trying to create some beds for our ICUs, how the people who are making masks locally and they can actually move their businesses to the next level.
But just how much are these people doing?
That trajectory, because in the end, there is a lot of deception that comes. It's a good conversation, and what I see is that if the real hustlers, the youth, the downtrodden, the people who have been disadvantaged by the system that has been there, were the one driving the agenda, I think we can have a healthy conversation about that and about a better Kenya.
And true to it, it's the conversation that we are having, one, with the BBI, so they say, but the very same people are the same who are pushing, the same people that Dr. Mwangi speaks about, the ones that have been there in the longest of time, have been dancing in the grave for the longest of time. Just who is out here to create alternative leadership? How much involved is the electorate in terms of bringing this change that they all require in terms of leadership? Because, I mean, we see them dancing to the tune of the very same people who've been in existence.
I think if you allow me just a minute.
Yes.
Because there's something I alluded to before you cut me short and gave a chance to her, that the owner of this hustler narrative is hoodwinking Kenyans. The deputy president is hoodwinking Kenyans, and I support it this way. On 9th December 2015, the deputy president himself was in Uganda campaigning for Yoweri Museveni in person. By that time, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni had ruled Uganda for that years. This time, he has sent his support to Museveni. And now, Museveni, by the end of this term, he will have ruled Uganda for over 40 years. So Museveni is not a dynasty in Uganda.
But in Kenya?
William Ruto supports him. He comes back to Kenya. He says Uhuru Kenyatta is a dynasty for ruling Kenya for only 7.5 years now. He says Raila Amolo Odinga is dynasty for being the longest serving leader of opposition. Who is hoodwinking who? Do you see it? This person, the agenda he's driving, himself doesn't own it. Because for real, he can't own it. He is not a hustler. This person was fed for the first time by Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. When he was 24 years at the university, Moi picked him, bought him clothes, fed him, gave him his first car, gave him his first piece of land. Are we together?
Yeah.
Made him, you know, to be the leader of the YK 92. They made a lot of money. They were given even a leeway. These guys even printed money in the 1990s with Jirongo. Are we together?
Right.
And by then, he rose to power in 1997. He was already a member of parliament. He then joined Uhuru Kenyatta, like you say, you put it. In 2007, he was with Raila. In 2013, Uhuru Kenyatta made him the deputy president. He has not walked through that ladder. No.
Okay, well,
started by Moi,
right
Moi, Uhuru, Raila.
Back to Uhuru.
It is biting the hand that fed you. That is the best definition of William.
Is it not getting to that point of realization and realizing that I've been doing it all wrong, and they have been doing it all wrong, and I can only be the person who can bring this change that Dr. Moses speaks about?
Every time I hear someone map out William Ruto's life,
journey,
his journey, where he began, who fed him, like they say, who fed him, who pushed him, you know, nothing is being credited to him. It's almost as if he was there, someone pushed him, another person pushed him, you understand?
Yeah.
Every time I hear someone literally go down that ladder, I want to ask them, William Ruto was not alone during that time. He has so many of his peers who also got a hand up. What he's calling, he was fed by Moi, I call mentorship. You understand? I call somebody, like what we are actually looking for, the youth, we are looking for those who've made it in these political circles to give us a hand up, to hold our hand and say, by the way, this is how you get into politics. And you know, I keep asking myself, was William Ruto alone in Y2K, this youth? Was he alone? Was he the only one who was given a hand up? As I go back to my analogy, you pick 5 interns, you place them in management. How many of those people prosper because of merit? How many of those people are picked up because of names? And that's simply what we're talking about. Yes, it is a fact that he got into the political space by getting a hand up from political leaders. But it's not a fact that once he got a hand up, he just sat there and waited for Moi to make magic happen. He worked his way through the chains. And I can tell you this, Linda, because I'm very new into politics. Yeah, and I kept on saying, I'm not a politician. Someone said, you're in politics, that's what it is. I'm very new into it. Once in a while here or there, I get some people give me a hand up, you know. I get leaders such as Gladys Beausoleil actually say, you know what, this is not what you should be doing, you get a hand up. But does that mean that when I will credit my whole success to the fact that my mentor was, for instance, Gladys Beausoleil, or to the fact that my mentor or the first person when I walked into a political gathering was His Excellency the Deputy Governor Maangi. You understand? You cannot take away all the hard work. You cannot take away all the issue. No, you cannot take away.
The issue is standing against them and now saying
that is the issue, because he tried to
standing against them.
He tried to say that William Ruto is not a hustler, because if anything, it is Moi who put him where he is. And I'm trying to say that you cannot credit someone's success by the fact that he got mentored or got a hand up by one person.
I think we are losing.
So at the end of the day,
let's bring
at the end of the day, this brings it back to the definition of the hustler, which people are refusing to accept because they know what it is. The definition being hard work and merit. We must reach a point where this country actually recognizes hard work and merit and rewards it.
I don't think that is
Dr. Mwangi, let's come back to this. And I know you probably would want us to focus more on what it is that bedevil the people of Kenya, but reality is that these conversations are here. And what's, or so to speak, is that instead of them giving birth to better conversations of, prioritizing the interest of the Kenyans, they give birth to another, branch of matters tribe, branch of matters, regional or rotational level of presidency. What can we do first to run away from this, or stick to it and still attain the goals of making Kenya better for the people?
Both narratives are wrong. The narrative of tribe, rotational president is wrong. Because it throws away what can drive this country. What can drive this country is merit. It is you get the best man or the best woman to occupy the position that they are suited to drive the nation. Both of them are wrong. I don't know how many Kenyans were around when Rwanda went to the dogs. It is not long ago when we saw massacre and a kind of thing you don't want to see just here across Rwanda. And therefore, conversations that drive a wedge between people, conversation that drives a wedge between those who have and those who do not have, is a conversation that can bring about bloodshed, that can bring about the outcome that you don't want.
We are an ethno-majoritarian
society. About this region and that region and that region. I think I love what Julius Nyerere did for Tanzania, which is to make Tanzanians feel Tanzanians. I would like Kenyans to feel Kenyans. I would like a Kenyan who is struggling, let's get it. Yes, they are hustlers. There are people who are struggling. Some of them got a degree. I had down there in Githurai some years back, some young men who are trading with boga, cabbages they are throwing, asking themselves, my friend, my brother, tell me, how does cos theta apply here? These are graduates who should possibly be applying the skills and knowledge that they acquired. I would rather so in other words, yes, it is reality, and this is the conversation we are having. We can't run away from it, but we must also say, as Kenyans, if we are going to drive an idea of people who are downtrodden, who do not have an opportunity, it is true if my child has a better opportunity than I had, because my father did not go to school. I went to school, so my child has a better opportunity. But that does not mean that my child now should be looked at as different as any other Kenyan. Because wherever they are, once they finish college, they are looking for jobs, they are looking to do businesses like any other child. Yes, maybe they have a head start than we do. So my point is this. As we talk about our nation going forward, how do we close this conversation and come back to the line? We need to go back to the basic. Close the conversation about rotational president. It's not good for our nation. Close the conversation about creating a conflict between hustlers and so-called dynasty. We also possibly need to have a definition of what a dynasty is, as much as we also need to have a definition of what a hustler is, both in the dictionary and in the common understanding.
How can we close these conversations, Dr. Moses, when we evidently see some communities being marginalized, when we evidently know that, and this is what some of them have argued, that in as much as we'd want to overlook what it is that the president said, there's some level of truth in it, because someone from Northeastern would love to find or to see one of their own somewhere at the top of the helm. And reality is that, again, like he said, two communities have ruled the nation. I mean, what happens to the other 40-something, and what do you get? How do you have a conversation that strikes a balance, that get them to that point where they'll say it is, well, let's forge our way forward as a country, as opposed to looking at the aspect of tribe?
By the time we came to have the Constitution 2010,
yes,
a movement that began in the 1990s, Ken Matiba, Charles Robia, and all that, took a long time, and then we came and gave ourselves a constitution whereby we devolved to the counties. If you go to the northern county of Mandera, which is within Kenya, it is during this dispensation of the 2010 constitution, for example, where they have been able to do even simple operations we call cesarean section.
Yeah.
The healthcare has begun to improve. The road infrastructure has begun to improve. We should be looking at how do we strengthen this devolution story so that we can have development taking place in different parts at the same pace. The Constitution also anticipated to have what we call, a fund that makes those counties that were left behind to catch up.
And
equalization.
Speaking of which, then
those kind of conversations that strengthen what we already have in terms of distribution of resources, then now also reaching out to the mama boga, the farmer, that person who is struggling in Gekomba, who is the real hustler. How can we make that person be able to put a square meal on the table and have a scenario where their business can grow and the government is supporting that, Doctor, those kind of things.
Doctor, they say
I have no quarrel with Deputy President William Ruto. I have no quarrel with him. He has come from somewhere and he has risen to where he is.
Yes.
Isaac Ruto, the same. Raila Odinga, the same. Kalonzo Musyoka, everybody has a background from where they have come from. They have a story. And we need to hear what do they want to do for this country to make it better. Instead of bringing a red herring. You call it a red herring.
They say this is coming in with the BBI. It is interesting to note that when you oppose the BBI, then you're automatically in a way labeled as a hustler, or you're labeled as a Team Tanga Tanga. First, do you suppose that within the BBI we have some of the answers that we seek as a people that Dr. Moses is speaking about?
Yes. We have very serious answers in there when it comes to inclusivity. Because why people fight for presidency, like it is a matter of life and death, is because of exclusion. And like you put it, some tribes feel that they have been left out. So the best way is to riot and say, no, you must include us. And now BBI is coming in with some solutions. It is not perfect, but it is trying to answer some of the problems we have. Like, on the issue of inclusivity, we have the aspect of winner takes all, whereby you win the presidency, and then all power rests with you. We are saying now, let us introduce the position of the Prime Minister, who will be from the party with the majority in Parliament, in the National Assembly for that matter. And then this person will sit in the cabinet. Then we are also saying, if you emerge second in the race of presidency, you automatically get an office. You become the official leader of opposition. In a way, you have not won the big seat, yes, but you're not out. You have been empowered through the constitution. You get budgetary allocation to play the role of oversight.
Why is it about you and not the people at large?
You cannot say
and these individuals.
We cannot all fit in parliament. What there is, you are a representative of the people.
Is it not one thing that everyone needs to understand, that if we cannot all fit in parliament, then there has to be a winner and a loser?
This is the point. Those people who elected President Uhuru Kenyatta believed that he would represent their issues if he is the president. Equally so, those who elected Raila Amolo Odinga thought that he carries their best interests.
Is there not going to be conflict of interest when we have...
And this is the point.
Yes.
This is the point. We have seen what has happened in America between Donald and this guy.
Biden.
Donald could not believe how I have 75 million votes, my friend. Why are you telling me that I have lost? With 75 million people who believe in me, have I lost? So he could not take it. And you could clearly see that if there was a window, like we are having in the BBI, where a winner doesn't take all, you become and you are facilitated by the government to play the role of the official leader of opposition, there would not be those temperatures over there. In Gikuyu we say, yani you don't put up your house, copying your neighbor. No, you put it according to how you feel right. Let me say this. The danger in the conversation we are having right now about the hustler, and I would like to speak to my fellow young people. Someone is trying to tell you that you don't have because someone else has. That is literally the thing. We have never been president because some people have been presidents. We have not been able to own this because some people have owned. And it is very dangerous because this one is going to trickle down. You have had in the last 1 week of a vehicle that was put up in blaze simply because this guy is driving a Subaru Outback and knocks down a motorbike. Something that comes automatically into the heads of those people is, huyu ni tajiri amenigonga, amenidharau kwa sababu mimi niko naka motorbike. I'm just riding a motorbike and this guy is driving, so he thinks I'm lesser.
Is that why
and that is the motivation.
Everyone is coming guns blazing on DDP?
Yes, because already,
is it justified?
Already we have that problem of people who feels they are poor are against those people whom they think have some money.
How do we elevate these people who are poor?
I'm telling you, if you have never been a victim, at least you know someone who has been a victim. You just touch a motorbike, and maybe that guy was in the wrong. You touch him, the conversation is changed. This was not an accident. You guy, because you have a car and I don't have, you knocked me down. Now someone else comes in and says, this guy has a car and you don't have. It is his fault.
Would you not be bitter? We have talked about, since independence, dealing with poverty. And reality is that years down the line, the older Kenyatta, we have the younger Kenyatta, we still are talking about poverty. Don't you suppose that they would be justified to be bitter today?
Turning the poor against the rich is not the solution. It is going to set this country.
What then is the solution, Gloria?
And Dr. Moses, Dr. Moses said something about Rwanda. And I wish people listen to him. It is not something we would want to experience in Kenya.
All right.
Hustler versus dynasty is the poison for this country.
If you're against the BBI, you're evidently a hustler, so to speak, or you probably are Team Tanga Tanga. I mean, how do we get ourselves to have a healthy conversations first, revolving around some of these issues that we are fronting as proposals in changing the scenario, in, elevating poverty, alleviating poverty, in terms of changing and bringing development to the people, getting Kenyans to that point where they feel like indeed we have a government that is working for us?
First of all, my position with the BBI is I've never been against it. I just don't think it's time to have a conversation about bringing in an expanded executive. I feel as though that is a misplaced conversation, and I've always consistently said that even if it's about uniting the people, they already excluded the youth from the process, and therefore I don't feel like it is a conversation that is relevant, and I don't think that is a conversation that is truthful if indeed it's about uniting the people. Now, I want to say two things, by the way. In Kenya, there are two things you cannot talk about without those who are guilty feeling uncomfortable.
Okay.
You can't talk about land. The moment you say, okay, you want us to feel like we are all Kenyan, let us go back and revisit the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission. Let us give reparations to those who lost their lands to the oppressors. Let us talk about why the Kenyatta family owns masses and masses of land. You know what's going to happen? People say, guys, that is not the attitude we should bring to the table. You know, this thing, you know, they start, it's a very, very uncomfortable conversation. The other thing you cannot talk about is why we have such a huge gap between those who have and those who don't have. Why we have such every other boundary of a suburb, of a prestigious suburb, is now bordered by a slum. When you bring that conversation, they say, you know, guys, they'll always be like that. You know, life, some animals are more than, you know, you understand? So, this conversation about the hustler versus the dynasty, it is time that we had it. Just like Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta went and shook hands and said, guys, we are dealing with a lot of things, let us unite the country. They also spoke about shared prosperity in that conversation. Shared prosperity trickles down to the hustler versus the dynasty. It really does. Because when you read the Building Bridges initiative, they are telling you that we want to push that even the less privileged have got opportunities, that their businesses or they get employment to be able to come to the table at par, to be able to afford a meal. That is the same conversation that the hustlers versus the dynasties are having. Now, there's this thing that my colleague talked about and said, if you hit a boda guy, immediately they come down and they rain down. It is true. It is true. But are you crediting that to the hustler versus the dynasty? No.
Yes.
They've always done it way before. Do you know why? Because the systems, the policing systems have failed those who have been oppressed. The policing system has come out to defend the privileged. So what are these boda people? And it's not only boda. Bodabodas, they have their organized, wakona mashimo, the chairmans, their circles. They have decided if the government is not going to deal with us, if the government is not going to empower us economically, we are going to, you know, provide ourselves security, and we are going to start up our own bench, table banking, financial institutions and organizations. So what they have said is, we have witnessed that every time there is a rogue driver. We have witnessed that majority of the time when a rich person who is privileged, who we call dynasty because they know they can get out. And I will say this because there's personally, not this year, last year, I was driving down from Yaya Center. And there's this lawyer who actually got accolades for the presidential, he got an award. This is in Naitwanga Nini, Izoma, HSC, what. And I was literally waiting for the light to go green at Yaya Center. This guy, we were 2 lanes all waiting, following. He came directly from the wrong side, overtook all these lanes.
With a combination.
Came right with his presidential awards and whatever nonsense, came right in front of me. And then, you know, I was upset. So you know what happened? I canceled. I said, in fact, it has to stop today. Because we can't be coming to Twitter and social media and whatever to complain. I followed this guy to his office. Unajua alipita na nikamfuata. All the way to his office. And I reached his office and I spent like 15 minutes. I said, I want to speak to this person. How can we, just because we don't have presidential awards, just because we are not in the inner system, just because we are not ABCD, we are standing there following the rules, waiting for the green light. This guy comes and becomes rogue. You understand? Those border people, if you understand what they are. No, that is one.
Oh, that was dynasty because she was driving.
No. That is one example. Okay. That is one example on a very small scale of what the common Kenyan has to deal with on a daily basis, and they literally have nobody to. You know, when I went to this guy's office, so that you understand what those border people are dealing with, Do you know, he was short of calling security for me. He told me, get out of here. I said, how can you do that? How can you, literally, we're all Kenyans. And I didn't know who this person was until when I looked at the name of the, and then someone told me, oh, unajua huyo ni lawyer wakina so and so, nini. So, you know, he's untouchable. You understand? The rage that I had no option that pack it in me, go to my car, and now my day has been messed. Border people have had that for a very long time. The police system have literally refused to collaborate with them and work with them. And so therefore they have formed their own systems of protection. The solution is the government should be aware. You know, I didn't talk over them. The solution is the government needs to be more aware on what this commoner is facing and decide, okay, this is what the commoner is facing. I will choose to expel these services that I have to them.
The government interestingly knows all this. And President Uhuru Kenyatta, in his address to the Mount Kenya region, so to speak, Dr. Moses Mwangi acknowledges the ills that sit within the society. He acknowledges all this as the president, but equally says he's in control. One of the things that people have questioned, how do you say you are in control as a father of the home, yet things are going south and you're seated there and you're now pulling blame games and you're now pointing fingers and you're not doing anything to do this? You probably speak of individuals that you certainly know. Let's pick some of these stories that have been captured. This would probably give us an overview, or technically what it is the president spoke about. Stolen cash being used to fight BBI. That is what the president acknowledges or says. And President rallies his Mount Kenya support base around Unity Project, says it is the best outcome for the region as he dismisses Ruto and his allies for opposing initiative promoting hustler versus dynasty's narrative. That is on the People Daily. Let's look at what is on the Daily, or the Standard newspaper says, tough call for Uhuru. Succession question with a restive Mount Kenya backyard. The president turns to vernacular radio stations to thrash hustler narrative, make impassioned plea for support for BBI and to declare that he is yet to pick his preferred successor, and a couple of issues that have been touched right there. And I mean, we all probably listened to this, so we had a chance to pick on some of the things that the president spoke about. He speaks about Nairobi, he speaks about the tough times in Nairobi, in the country. The Daily Nation speaks of, Uhuru fires at Ruto. President launches full-blown attack on his deputy over 2022, and the aspect of corruption has come out. You've seen what it is that Kalonzo Musyoka spoke about, and equally firing shots at the DP. There is that knowledge of the ills in the society. There is that machinery to deal with these ills, but nothing really is happening.
Yes, I think we all live in Kenya, and we all know that where we are not happy. Things are not going the way we would want. The level of corruption in this nation is high. Everybody knows. I think the president is in a privileged position to know and to even give figures of 2 billion a day. And if that information is out there, the question we'll be asking is, why hasn't anybody done anything about it? The things that, the anger that is with the majority of Kenyans who are jobless, that anger, if it is not managed well, we may end up with what we call a banana republic, which is where there is no law and order. So when we gave ourselves the new constitution of 2010, the president is one arm. He has the responsibility to lead the nation. But we also created other organs to deal with issues, corruption like that, money that is being stolen. One would ask ourselves, where is EACC?
Right.
One would ask ourselves, what systems have we put in place to put these people who are stealing from the nation to book? Now, when the president says money is being stolen and he's the president of the republic, one wonders what a common mwananchi would then say, or that other business. So there is a need for us to change. The way things are, we are not in a good situation. And The question is, how do we move to a better situation?
Okay.
And that is, we are headed to an election. The president, in his wisdom, together with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, came up with what they thought was a solution through BBI. But I have a little quarrel with the BBI, although personally I know the context. A lot of Kenyans don't understand what is in that BBI. This BBI that has some good proposals, it may also have areas of improvement. Why can't the person, Mama Boga, have the opportunity to understand it, so that as we have the conversation to see whether the change we need is in there or not? I would like to go back to the main conversation and say, there is a man in my village, he's now deceased. He struggled and came to Nairobi and owned some plots in Kibera. He had several houses, not even a stone house, mud houses, which he was renting. Then, in 2007, 2008, when this country sank to its lowest, immediately after the elections, some people occupied those houses and said they were renting, now they are not going to pay. So this man, and he had really struggled
to set them up,
was seen as a landlord, and he came back to the village and lived a miserable life. Property that he owned no longer belonged to him. We saw it in Huruma,
yes,
where after the elections, where the nation, people fought, we saw people who had struggled to put up little houses, denied ownership of even that little. And that kind of narrative is where we are now headed. And that is why, for me, because I remember that, and I was around when the Rwandan genocide took place. I have worked in Eastern Africa. I was head of the World #1 vaccine company. I was traveling to Kigali. I was working to vaccinate people against meningitis there when all these things crumbled. And so when I hear this narrative, I go back to George Orwell's book, Animal Farm. Animal Farm, and I would like people to read. Yes, I think we need change in this nation. We must have change. What is that change that we need to have so that this inequality, because there is a growing inequality, the people who have are becoming richer. The people who, even the middle class, some of us came from down there. We look after so many people, but before you move forward, there are so many more to look after. You are not able. Something needs to be fixed.
All right. Well,
Yes.
we probably the people of Murang'a are watching and are looking at you to see whether indeed you're amongst the few who are going to bring in the alternative leadership that we speak about this morning. One Juguna Mwangi is watching and says the Hustler dynasty narrative has got nothing to do with the rich versus the poor. It is about the oppressed versus the oppressor. And the conversation seeks to bring us back to provision of equal opportunities for all. Sends greetings to you. He says you're his incoming governor, and he equally is eager to see whether indeed you bring policies that are going to be important for the people of Murang'a. And bringing us to the address again of the president yesterday. First of all, this comes in the wake of that letter from Kangata, and the conversation that there's a trouble brewing in the Mount Kenya region, and probably one would want to argue, why is it that then we focus much on the Mount Kenya region, yet we are running away from that narrative of our region, a tribe, and all this. And so do you suppose that one, the president's conversation yesterday was significant in countering Kangata's letter, and does it speak to the people of Mount Kenya?
It speaks, one, and then it, as you say, countering Kangata's a letter, which I'm sure got to the president. I would say, asking why he's speaking to the people of Mount Kenya. And at the same time, we are talking about inclusivity.
Yes.
We are talking about unity as a nation. Let me tell you this. We must be honest to ourselves and stop sugarcoating issues.
Right.
No, you hear someone speaking on TV or radio and saying, no, Kenya is united, blah, blah. They go down there. They go straight to their tribes and start giving them stories. Because we have never appreciated one fact. And this is what I believe in. Kenya is a nation of nations. And this is it. There is the Kaba nation that believes Kalonzo Musyoka has the key to their success.
Okay.
There is a Luya nation that is now coming to an agreement that Modavadi carries the key. There are the Mbiji Kendas who are running around Joho. There are the Kalejins who are running around William Samoei Ruto. There are the Kikuyus who are behind Uhuru Kenyatta. The day we shall appreciate that is where our strength starts, and deal with the political chaos that comes in an election, because that is the only disadvantage that we fight as communities after an election. But in all the other 4 years, we have lived in peace and harmony. We must appreciate that we are over 44 tribes. How can we live together? How can we benefit from each other? And actually, talking about my tribe and talking good of my tribe is more good when I compare now with a Mijikenda. And that is why even BBI is proposing that on 26th of every December, we have Utamaduni Day, where we exchange these cultural values amongst ourselves. It is our strength. It is not our weakness. Being in more tribes is not our weakness. And therefore, the president speaking to the tribe where he comes from. Because charity begins at home.
You know,
if you are fought at home, my friend, you cannot be able to go further and unite the nation.
And we are not challenging this in any way, but I'll take a scenario that plays out in a country, for instance, like, Nigeria. And the Francophone and the Anglophone conversations that have been, rife down there. The likes of, our neighbors Ethiopia and the different tribes that they resonate with, and the level of animosity that has culminated from that. On numerous occasions, you've seen the likes of, the Anglophone or the English-speaking Nigerians feel like, why is it that the president is going out there to address, the nation and sometimes to speak to the people in French? Like, honestly, where is he leaving the rest of us? And we do not want to equate this to that. But then again, there are some dissenting voices, and there are some voices that I felt like, where does this leave us as other?
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
When is the last time a Luya tuned to Inoro FM? When is the last time a Kalejin tuned to Kameme FM?
Probably they've never, maybe.
That is the point.
Okay.
If he was here at TV47
and spoke
Kikuyu,
with question that.
Spoke Kikuyu.
Okay.
Because, and I'm mentioning those radio stations because they are on the newspapers.
Right.
I don't want any offense. But if he was here and started speaking in Gikuyu, then
question that.
Honestly, we would question. But let me say this. This issue of now saying, and there's something he addressed, and I like the doctor, and he has talked about a vaccine and how he went around the world. You can see he is an accomplished man. You are an accomplished journalist, a news anchor. Someone is admiring you. And probably, most likely, your daughter or your son may admire what you do. But then, someone someday might say that, oh, your daughter will not become a journalist because you are a journalist. Okay. The president said, and I really sympathized with him, that, oh, you guys are telling me that I was not supposed to be president because my father was president. Are you not then saying that someone cannot be a doctor because their father was a doctor? And it requires a third eye for you to see that. That the sons of Raila Amolo Odinga, even extended to his sons, to his brother's sons, Oburu Odinga, and Uhuru Kenyatta and his sons.
Yeah.
Someone is trying to make Kenyans see that, oh, the sons of Uhuru Kenyatta do not have a chance in this country because their father was a president.
Is that the case?
But mine, because I have never been president, so my son and myself stood a chance. Is that the ground we want to go to? Have we diverted now from what is saying meritocracy, whereby you become president because you deserve it, not from the community you have come from or the family you come from, for that matter?
Okay.
And I heard the Tangatanga guys saying, oh, it is not the communities who have been leading Kenya. Actually, it is the family of Uhuru Kenyatta.
That has been.
And I agree with them.
Okay.
I agree with them. But let me also tell them that actually it is not the family of Uhuru Kenyatta that is at the presidency. It is Uhuru Kenyatta.
Probably the bone of contention is, the bone of contention then could be, it is okay, it could be him, it could be his family, but just how much are the Kenyans set to gain out of this? How much are they gaining out of this? And probably if it was going all well in the system, maybe most of the people would not even argue. And on other occurrences, you've had some of, the country or the citizens arguing that, you know what, we still want this person because he's done well in terms of leading the nation.
This is what I'm saying, and I'm answering together with what you have asked.
Make it brief so Gloria can come in.
Anyone who belongs to Kenyatta's family doesn't become president by default simply because Uhuru Kenyatta is the president.
Definitely not.
And we must agree that where we are heading to as a nation, it will not matter who is at the presidency. Because BBI is proposing we devolve now 35% of our resources. I am hopeful that the next president will come and say, oh, let us make it 45. Such that all the resources now will go to the ground. And you will bear me witness, one day, one time, this presidency, nobody will give a damn about it. Because the resources will have gone down, 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 trickled. And that's why I support BBI. Another, for that reason, that 5% will go down. Yes.
I wanted
the president's address?
The president, it was not an address.
Okay.
It was the president's vernacular rant.
Okay.
It was a vernacular rant.
Why do they are rants?
Yeah, it's a rant.
Why do you say they are? Because, I mean, he complained a lot. Okay.
Tell Solomon to go on the Oxford Dictionary and get the definition.
Yes.
This was not a presidential address. This was the president's vernacular rant.
Okay.
Addressing his people of Mount Kenya. And I wanted to ask a question when he was talking and saying, oh, it was this station and that station, so therefore we can't fault him. When was the last time we saw a president going to a vernacular station to address anything? Let's start from there. Let's think about the presidents we have had down from Moi.
Of Kibaki.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yes.
And I need you to go, you really have to think, you have to Google, then you're like, oh, there's that one time. It is not a common thing. And the fact that he felt the need.
But it's equally not the first time that the president is doing this.
Yeah, because that's his character. And that's what we've been sitting here trying to say. Yeah, people are voting for a person and they're disappointed in a person. It has nothing to do with the fact that he comes from the Kenyatta family. It has everything to do with the fact that there are people who actually believed in him as a person, voted him in, but what they're getting is all the allegations that were being thrown back at them.
So what is wrong with that, Gloria, when we acknowledge the fact that yes, we pride in our, in our tribes.
We pride ourselves.
Majoritarian.
We pride ourselves in our tribes, in our ethnicity.
And like Solomon would say, there's trouble brewing in Mount Kenya, and probably that leads
there is a time. There is a time where cultural diversity, ethnic diversity should be celebrated, should be encouraged, and should be empowered. And I will remind Solomon about when we had the Ineos run.
Yes. We all
who was Kikuyu and who was what and who, and all these stations were reporting. You understand? There is a time for everything. And actually, I want to take it a notch higher. There's also a specific office for certain things. As the symbol of national unity, there are things that you cannot and you should not do. It doesn't matter whether it has been done before, because a horrible precedent does not make it right. You understand? So even if Kibaki came and addressed us about how many wives he had, it does not mean that you going in should now clarify how many wives you have. There are things, as sitting in that office as a president, there are things that you should do and there are things that you should not do. And it's unfortunate that the youth like us have to be the ones to remind these elderly people. So you say it wasn't
proper for the president to go and...
I think as the president, and in the time when he had already uttered tribal kind of incitement kind of things, I think that at that point, it's too soon.
Yeah.
It's too soon for you then to jump into a vernacular station and start addressing people in vernacular. But having said that, there are points that he was trying to clarify, which that should be appreciated, that it's not really about Mount Kenya and this and that, economic empowerment, the usual, but we all know that we already had that in English, so we know that he was trying to appeal to Mount Kenya because as the Kieleweki people have said, Mount Kenya has actually been invaded. They say it has been invaded by a person who should not be there, William Samoei Ruto. So that's why I'm saying, at the end of every conversation that we're having between now and 2022, we have 18 months to elections. Throwing anything tribal to me is very irresponsible of any leader. To go to a station or to even try to instigate some kind of tribal animosity or tribal, it's, to me, as a leader, those are the lines you should stay away from. And there are certain actions that are taken by leaders. They might not outrightly come out and say we are sending you to war, but it is as a sign. It's actually, I find it very irresponsible of any leader that actually tries to play that card. But there's something that Solomon said that I really have to try and paint a picture. He's talking about just because you come from a family that has a name, whether it's Raila Odinga, whether it's Uhuru Kenyatta, from my place we have the Nyachais, all these families, just because you come from that family doesn't mean that your children should then be excluded from leadership or being prosperous. And a lot of people will tell you that they didn't even vote for Uhuru Kenyatta. They voted for the duo because they might not have believed in the Kenyatta brand, but they thought that, you know what, this guy has balanced out, you know, this dynasty thing. We feel that he resonates with us. And so that's what I'm telling you. The people actually went to the ballot and voted for Uhuru Kenyatta.
Which was not free and fair, you think?
Which, with all those allegations, you must respect the will of the people, because in Chapter 1 of our Constitution, the power belongs to the people. And when they went and voted and they said, this is the person we have, but it feels as though Uhuru Kenyatta knows or thinks, or he has an imposter syndrome where he understands he wasn't voted in by merit. This is why he keeps running to vernacular stations.
But that did not happen,
to justify.
You know, years back. I mean, he's lost elections.
This is why he keeps reminding.
Why is it?
No. This is why he keeps. This is the president who keeps reminding us he's the president.
Yes.
Nobody's questioning you. You're the president. You can't keep saying.
On numerous occasions, the people have told him, you know, speak, crack the whip.
Numerous occasions, the people.
I am the deputy president, and I am not mad.
Allow me. Numerous occasions. Numerous occasions. I literally feel as though, and these are my opinions, numerous occasions when the president is coming to remind us he is the president, most of the times we wonder, where did that come from? Because the people around him and the people who are influencing him
have pushed him to do that.
No, have actually, it's almost as if 2 years ago he woke up and realized, no, I must take charge. And then that is why he's reminding us even now, I'm in charge and I know what's going on. Nobody questions
It's
you.
because people have been talking about this. I mean, on the actual day, that is in Kakamega, you saw the likes of, you know, that is Kotu Secretary General saying, you know what, you need to crack the whip. On numerous occasions, you've had other people saying, you know, Orengo recently said, you know what, President Uhuru Kenyatta, you have to crack the whip. Is there a better way that the president
How many
will handle
times
this?
was our former Prime Minister Raila Odinga antagonized and told, you are the Prime Minister, you need to,
and he did not come out to do that. All right,
because when people are confident in their skills and having taken office because of the merits that they have, those kind of talks are not things.
Are not necessary?
You cannot address it.
Okay, and when he says that he's the president and equally things are going south, then the question is, what is the problem? So we take a short break. We come back with about, you know, we'll be having around 15 minutes or so. We delve into Nairobi and then we call it a day on this one.
When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant. And the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast. And as we get to wind up on this conversation on matters politics to get into a different one, I think it's only fair that we look at what is happening in Nairobi. We close the initial conversation because, well, it's something that we might not be able to wind up on. But then again, indeed, also a healthy conversation that seeks to bring answers to the questions that bedevil us as a people. And so to Nairobi, and with a special request or approach to it, Gloria would wish to exit the stage, but not before you say anything about Nairobi. Gloria.
I think what we are witnessing with this whole gubernatorial race that has just been cut short is it's not only impunity. It is my friend called it we are heading to a banana republic.
Yes,
a nation that is not guided by laws. A nation that where people do not respect the constitution, do not respect the proper processes and authorities that we have actually, as a people, agreed to put in place. I mean, you look at the process of literally finding any other means to ensure that we don't have a by-election. Like as I said last time when I was here, I told you that the drivers of the impeachment of Sonko had a process that failed. They thought that BBI would have already gone through, and so NMS would have sort of had a peaceful transition. Since Sonko comes out, then, you know, BBI would have said Nairobi is no longer a county, and so therefore NMS would have, you know, taken over the businesses of Nairobi. When that didn't happen, it actually looked very clear that after Sonko was impeached, that we're definitely going for a by-election, because as per the laws that we have, the office of the deputy governor was vacant when Sonko was impeached.
Right.
And so therefore that vacuum that they were trying not to have was filled in by having the speaker come in to sit in acting capacity for 60 days as we prepared for a by-election. You saw IEBC, you know, starting the process of, IEBC had even given us the dates for the by-election. We had contenders coming in, putting in their papers, and the processes had begun. But because, and this is where the hustler versus the dynasty or the system narrative comes in, because there is a system of people, a circle of people who control this country, who actually oppress Kenyans, did not want for us to go into a by-election, because if you calculated the days of having the by-election of Nairobi, and then they realize if we have the by-election of Nairobi, we definitely we are not going to be able to conduct a referendum. So it has to be one or the other. So what is bigger? The referendum is bigger because it has the expansion of the executive. It's creating business continuity for a lot of politicians. It's giving hope for our president in terms of his political career. So, I mean, of course, then we better sabotage the by-election for Nairobi.
Are you saying that it's cast in stone that we're going to go for a referendum? And in all honesty, Gloria, do you suppose that when you look at the interests of the people of Nairobi, we look at time, it will be a fair process to, you know, take Nairobians through a by-election?
Nothing so far. Everything that has happened since Corona started has not been fair.
Okay.
Not because when we had the Corona, we were forced to go into this building bridges campaign. That wasn't fair. Was that fair? That was not fair. We were dealing with a pandemic. Our family members were dying, but we were being forced to talk about referendums. That wasn't fair. Was it fair that Sonko was impeached in a process that was completely obscure? Till today, when you ask for a list of the MCAs that actually voted to impeach Sonko, you can't get a list. Was that fair? That was not fair. Was it fair, actually, that when Sonko went to court, and he even clearly gave all this, his appeal, including giving the transcripts where we hear the president's relatives trying to influence the kind of deputy governor that he should have. Was it fair that that was ignored and it was just, you know, taken as if it was propaganda, yet he had evidence? You understand? None of these things are fair. So to say, is it fair to take Kenyans or Nairobians to a by-election, or is it fair to take Kenyans to a referendum? It's not fair. And that's the reason why Kenyans have realized it's no longer about justice, it's no longer about our sovereign power, it's about the system. That's what you see them pushing back. And by the way, how many court cases have been launched ever since now? In fact, the swearing in of Kananu as governor has been put to a halt, you understand? Because people are realizing maybe we cannot beat this system fairly. So what do? We do everything that we can as a people, because we have the power to try as much as possible to fight for devolution and to fight for our constitution.
Well, whether anything will come out of the courts is a question of wait and see. Probably it's fair that I release you. Thank you so much for the great insights. And we're looking forward to have you some other time. As we cross over to Dr. Moses. Dr. Moses, look at the Nairobi scenario and what it is that we are having today. It's okay. You can go through this direction as we engage Dr. Moses. First, the cases presented in court by LSK and the KHCR, yes, Kenya Human Rights Commission. Do you see a scenario where anything is going to come out of this that will probably be more of the interest of the people of Nairobi as opposed to the systems, as many would look at it, or technically the crisis that would come along with this?
We must exhaust all options that are provided by our laws.
Yes.
And I think it is a strong nation that respects law and order. We have seen in the US, for example, when Donald Trump lost and he said his election was stolen, he went all the way to Congress.
Yes.
And the systems of the US were able to stand strong, and eventually the law will prevail. I think it is in order for what the Law Society is doing to go to court. That is the place where issues should be argued out, and then whatever the outcome, we should respect the law. Since the matter is in court, I would like to argue for or against.
Yes.
All I would say is that as a country, we need to respect laws that we have put in place. So for now, whatever has happened, Kananu, who is a Kenyan, and people from Meru are very excited, and Embu, about her occupying the position. Sometimes you see that, there is a way in which things play, and people are put in certain position. I think I want to congratulate her that she is now the deputy governor of Nairobi. And when you read her story, I think there are many women who will be really motivated. But I must say, for the sake of the nation, I think it is important. The matters that are in court, let them be argued.
In court.
Whatever the judgment that will come, let us all respect. In fact, one of the things that I would like to say, it is important for us to respect our courts. And it is also equally important that the judges listen to the arguments and rule according to the law.
Okay.
That way, our nation will be strong. I am from Murang'a, and I work in Murang'a. That is where the work I do every day is. But I also live in Nairobi.
Yes.
And I dare say that there is something that we, the people of Nairobi, they need justice.
Right.
They need services. Nairobi is the capital city of Kenya.
Yes.
It is the seat of power for the nation.
All right.
Therefore, the president cannot look aside, because if Nairobi is wrong, Kenya is wrong.
Yes. So
and therefore, we all look forward to having a Nairobi that works for everybody. For now, for me, I would say, let the courts decide.
Well,
let me close by just, allow me just 1 minute to say that it was important for the president to address the people of Mount Kenya the way he did.
Okay.
If you go to the ground, you will hear that the people of Murang'a, the people of Nyeri appreciated to hear their president articulate the issues and the vision that are there. It is important because they were not quite clear, and we would urge him to do that more often, so that people can understand. We have seen, and he's not the only one who speaks in vernacular. We have seen many people, whether in funerals or in public meetings, they turn to, there is a time for purposes of communication. There's a time you can be speaking and you realize people are not hearing. If you are William Ruto and you are in a rally in Bomet,
you will speak.
You will speak. If you are Raila Odinga and you are in a Siaya, you will speak. We have seen that, and I think we should not condemn our mother tongues.
Right.
If anything, we should celebrate. I look forward to our languages becoming stronger, so that they can also be Googled.
All right. And my director just said, Tunine, like we wind up. So in this case, as we get to wind up and we come to you in the case of Nairobi, just how much justification, or what amount of justification will be needed for the courts, or generally what is happening not to be reversed in Nairobi, if at all the interests of the people are at heart. And I mean that equally showing a justification that probably the hand of the national government was needed to bring sanity back.
I would say at this moment, and speak like a normal citizen, a common citizen in this country, that we don't need an election in Nairobi. We do not need to set our capital city to a political mood right now. So, by whatever means, whatever it takes, can we avoid an election?
All right.
And let the people know that Anne Kananu was not being appointed to be the deputy governor to Mike Sonko. No, there's nothing like that. She was nominated by Mike Sonko to be the deputy governor for the city county of Nairobi. And that is why even after appointing or maybe nominating her, he could not be able to fire her, because this is the deputy governor for Nairobi. And I would also say, even as we throw stones to the government or the system or the deep state or whatever you call it, that it is having a hand in trying to bring back sanity to the capital city of Nairobi, let us also go back and ask ourselves, the constitutional watchdogs, who are the judiciary, today they have someone illegally in office. Which law did Maraga apply in having his deputy in an acting capacity? What Maraga should have done is resign, like Mutuga did earlier, and give way for us to have another Chief Justice. People must navigate around, because in any case, that office cannot be in vacuum. We must have a chief justice.
So we are all known to be a country that flouts the rule of law.
No,
as we wind up close it.
In good faith, he said, now I'm exiting the stage.
Okay.
This country cannot be in a crisis.
Yes.
I am appointing my deputy,
yes,
Muilu, as the acting chief justice, as you guys look for a chief justice. And as we wait for 2022, Mike Sonko had already nominated Anne Kananu to be his deputy. There was a case in court stopping her vetting. The petitioner withdrew the petition, and therefore her vetting continued, and she was cleared by 123 representatives
Many would argue,
of the people of Nairobi.
And she says thank you to the president, and so everyone was like, was it the MCAs or was it the president? And then why did you swear in the speaker if you knew very well that this is a case that was in existence? Probably you'd have allowed time for that case to, take a different angle before getting to swear in the speaker and many other.
Kananu was honest.
All right.
Thank you to the president, because the president, even yesterday, he confirmed.
Okay.
I initiated the removal of Mike Sonko, who I helped get the possession of the governor.
Okay.
The president is just honest.
All right, let's leave it at that.
This guy is unable to work. Let me bring the general, Jemedari. And Jemedari amefanya kazi in Nairobi.
Has he?
We have seen it.
Okay, well, interesting times ahead.
Interesting
times ahead, I must agree. Thank you so much. First of all, to Gloria Uroba, who just left. I almost said Muliro, and
Gloria should support Kananu. She's a fellow woman.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Does it get to that point?
We shall now have 3 governors.
Do we all glorify what one would argue as, okay, well, let me not get into that, but sometimes we say we do not glorify what we think is not right, just because we feel like, this is a person who comes from my tribe, comes from the party I affiliate to, or is a fellow woman and all that. We'd love to hear whether she supports that or not, but she said no.
Whenever they get a chance, don't fight them down.
All right, Solomon Kuria, political analyst, thank you so much for the great insights, and Dr. Moses Mwangi, governance expert, thank you so much. We look forward to see you some other time. It's now time that we cross to a different conversation altogether on Matters Land. We all agreed that indeed it always gets emotive when we talk Matters Land, but just how best do you invest on this without having to have regrets later on after this break?
Clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday. It means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant. And the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant and the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant and the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m.
And strategic land investment, which is very important, especially for many of us who would want to delve deep into the real estate world and generally the world of land and all this. And so we'll have an expert who's going to take us through the importance of this and just how then do you get it right when you decide that you're going to get into strategic land investment. And joining us for this conversation is George Mburu of Mizizi Homes, or Africa Homes. Yes, Mizizi Africa Homes, specialist in line with this. And we get to understand some more, so I'll not do much of an introduction because then he's well positioned to do this. Good to have you this morning.
Thank you.
And when we hear anything to do with land, sometimes we do not even know whether it means land, but we just get excited. But also we have some level of fear that comes along with this because of the numerous moments of fraud we've witnessed today. So much realignments being done in, the Ministry of Land, and this, trickles down to every other investor who would want to invest in this particular line. So before we even get to that, first we'd love to understand what then is the importance of, investing in, strategic land, and first, how then do we describe what exactly is land investment or strategic land investment?
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, good to have you.
Again, it's my second time.
Yes.
My name is George Mburu. I'm the CEO of Mrs. Africa Homes Limited. And it's always a pleasure when we talk matters investments, matters land, because as you have said, it is a matter that is dear to many people's heart. And it is something that people always look forward to, owning a piece of land, owning a property. Yeah, so it is a very interesting topic, and I'm happy to be here. And to start off with the question that you have asked, can you repeat?
Just understanding land investment, in particular strategic land investment.
Yeah. The most important thing when you have a piece of land is knowing that you have a genuine piece of land, and having that security and peace of mind that there's no one that is going to come and get you off your piece of land, because you have seen the negativity of somebody coming and taking over a property that you had settled and you knew it is yours and you are living comfortably and you are comfortable. Then all of a sudden it is said it is a grabbed piece of land, and a new owner comes and says it's their land. We know the implications, and it has brought so many fights. So the most important thing before you buy a piece of land, it is always important to involve the professionals who are involved in land. And they include, we have a lawyer, you need to have a lawyer, you need to have a surveyor, and you need to work closely with the lands registry. And we have them all over the counties. We have them in every county has a lands registry. So it's very important that you get yourself familiar with the land, and also to do a bit of due diligence, history of land, who owned the land before. And it is very easy, you can access all this information from the lands ministry that are all over the counties. And you can actually ask for a green card, and it is a very small amount, maybe 2,500, and you get to know the history. And then before you purchase any land, it's always good to have a very clear agreement, so that in case of anything, it's always you have yourself backup.
All right, in most cases, the experiences, some of the things that you've mentioned, get many people thinking that, well, maybe if I have this lump sum of money, I can invest it somewhere else. What would be one thing, or maybe a couple of things, that would probably get you saying that it is important to invest in land?
Many people always think that for you to get a piece of land or for you to invest in land, you need to first of all have accumulated such a huge amount, which is not the case. And I would encourage anybody, even a young person, you can start off with a piece of plot, that is not maybe so close to town, because you get to understand that as you get nearer the town, the properties price go up. But as you go deeper in the interior, you get the prices also go down, depending on the location. So for anyone, either you are young, you are old, it's always good you start investing early, so that as you continue investing, you also get to grow. You start maybe in an interior place. Then as time goes by and as you accumulate more money, you can continue coming up near to town, and eventually you will have your dream house. It's just like owning a car. You don't start with the biggest machine. You can start with a small car, then with the time you continue upgrading. So the issue of investing, it's not about having so much money. It's about having that mindset and starting early. And it also motivates you, because once you have a parcel of land, and you with time, and actually unlike a car, whereby maybe you are reselling and you want to upgrade, you will resell maybe at a loss and top up. For a land, you will resell at a higher price, and then you just top up and upgrade.
All right, and when we speak about strategic, land investment, then so much comes up, And for instance, in this case, as you seek to own land, you probably have the money. But in most cases, we honestly do not know how to go about it. Which would be the safest, approach? One, for instance, going it alone, as an individual, and you go and get a person who has land, and you decide that you're going to have a conversation between the two of you, and you decide on investing on their particular land. Or sometimes it is way advisable if you go the route where you're going to get assistance from these institutions that have taken up, the land business. For instance, real estate institutions. Speak of Homes Africa. Africa Homes or Homes Africa?
Mizizi
Africa Homes, yes. Speak of such entities. Which would be the safest, approach in this scenario? Because, there are a lot of fraud occurrences that play out.
What I would advise, it all depends with where you are coming from. Because, for example, you have a lot of time at your disposal. You can be in a position to go and do your own due diligence. You can be in a position to talk with the brokers and get to understand how you're going to get a genuine parcel of land. But also at the same time, if you do not have the luxury of having all that time to go do the search where you would like, deal with the brokers, do due diligence, go to the lands, all that time, you can approach people who are reputable institutions like Mizizi Africa Homes Limited, whereby before we even get to secure a parcel of land, we have done all those due diligence that are necessary and are required. And when you are buying our property, it's also a risk to us, so we need also to involve the surveyors, the lawyers, do our due diligence, talk with the locals, so that before we buy that parcel of land and we welcome you, maybe we partner together, we own that land and maybe do a house. It's something we have already gone the extra mile. So you, the customer, you don't have to go through that so much hassle.
Yes.
You come to us, we have done all the hassle. And now we have identified the piece of land. If you like it, if you like the location, we proceed with the journey ahead together.
All right, a huge investment to make, and one would want to understand, the acquisition and risk management or mitigation methodologies that come along with this. Would you tell us something small about that?
Sure. The risk mitigation comes with the due diligence that we are talking about, and ensuring that you have the history of the land that you are buying, and you also get to interact with the locals that are there. The locals, because they don't have any interest, you talk to several people, they will be able to tell you this place, how is it, even security-wise, in terms of, there is a land we were so much interested, and we went, it was very good, we did the search, we did everything, it was okay. But we went and talked to the locals, and we asked about, there was a river. How is this river when it floods? And the local was able to tell us, here when it rains, water comes all the way from the river and up to here. And we saw that is not a viable place whereby we can do a project. So there are so many things that are involved. On top of the most important is involving the lawyers, surveyors, and the people who are in that line, and also the registry and the people in lands. But you also need to go the extra mile, do your due diligence around the area. How is the security of that area? How are the natives? The natives, is it a communal land, but maybe at some point it was given to somebody? You need to understand all those dynamics. So the due diligence goes far beyond the search and the looking for the green card. You need to do more and talk to the locals. It is a wide range of things.
All right, investor relationship is crucial also. So how then does it affect investment, both negative and positive?
Investors are very important, and for us, Mizizi Africa Homes Limited, we believe that our customers are the most important partners that we have, because we work together. So it's a journey that you need to grow. You need to have that trustworthy relationship. Just like in marriage, you need to work with people who you can trust each other. You work peacefully, despite any ups and downs. It is something that calls for people to work together and have faith. Actually, I look at it, the most important thing is working by faith, because at times you may have some unseen dangers. But if you have faith and again you put God first, everything works well.
All right. We speak of market research, which is very important. You know, just aligning yourself with the processes that are involved and getting to know the right offices to knock to if you want to make this investment. Is there a certain duration that one would require for them to evidently, you know, go through this and, you know, satisfactorily argue that, you know, this is time that I can put my money on this? Is there a certain duration, or maybe sometimes it is dependent on technically the place that you are focusing on, the people that you're dealing with?
Yeah, it's a process, and it all depends with the time that you have. And you know, for a majority of people, they are working. So you find that somebody is busy in the office, and maybe the only time they get is during the weekend, and maybe when they are they have a leave days, and that's why I normally encourage, if you can involve yourself with a reputable institution, because like for us, Mrs. Africa Homes Limited, that is our work. And if we have identified something, we have the team. We have the team of those people who are working. So you can have several people, maybe a surveyor, a lawyer, and maybe other people that you have sent on the ground working simultaneously, because that is our work. But you as an individual, if you have to do all that, it may take you such a huge amount of time and energy. But if you have a reputable institution like Mrs. Africa Homes Limited doing all that, when you are coming on board, you'll find that most of the hard work has been done, and you have eliminated actually almost every risk that is there.
All right, when we talk prices and, you know, the money that needs to be put, what are some of the things that we look at? Because well, sometimes people have said that, you know, you go out there when the competition is down, when the seasons are low and everything, but we all acknowledge that with land, it's a whole different thing today, because the value keeps, you know, going up, appreciating by the day, and so people take advantage of such. So what are some of the things to look out for you to reach to a point whereby you agree on the prices and you agree on just how much this land that you want to invest on should go for?
Thank you. You will realize that when you go to areas that have already developed, and there is already road accessibility, there is security, the water is there, everything is in place, there are shopping malls, there are schools. You will most probably find that the place has already grown to almost its optimum. And that is where you find prices have really skyrocketed, because over time roads have been built, water has been piped, electricity, security, police posts have been put, people have put malls, supermarkets, schools. You'll find that the place will be most probably very expensive, because over time it has the land has appreciated. But if you are in a position to do your calculation very well, and you get to understand there are some of the areas that are coming up, like at the moment we have bypasses that are coming up. We have northern corridor, we have southern, we have the greater eastern bypass. You find that if you get a parcel of land in those areas, 5-10 years down the line, you'll find that the place has really appreciated, and now the people who will be coming to buy those places at that time, the prices will be so high. But you'll find that when you do it like right now, and you buy either for speculation or you develop immediately, you will find that you'll be able to get your return. Assuming you buy the place that has already developed fully, and maybe you intend to resell, it may be the higher chances that you may buy at 10 million, and after 10 years you will sell at 10 million or even 11 million. You will have made only $1 million. You go to an interior place in quote, whereby those roads are being made and those infrastructures are upcoming. You buy maybe a plot at $1 million or 1.5, and you find 5 years, 10 years, you are selling it at over 10 million. And people are actually asking you, how are you able to get this prime place? But it's only that it's time, it's a matter of time, because the land never depreciates.
Well, time changes so much. So you speak of people who would want to put up an investment where, you know, over time, on a medium term, they decide to sell some of this land, or to sell this land that they put their assets on. With a view of this, what would be the best strategic approach to it? First of all, buy it and wait for it to stay for a longer while, or buy it on a medium term, sell it, or what exactly plays out? And as you await for that moment where this land is going to appreciate, their value is going to be appreciate, just how much then can be done on this particular land to ensure that it just does not sit idle?
Thank you very much. You find that, as I had advised, for any person, it's good to start early. And you can start by securing a parcel of land.
Yes.
You just fence it, and you can put, depending on the size, if it's a small plot, you may just put a fence around it and have it sitting. If it's a bit bigger, you can fence it, and also have some goats, some chicken. You can do something that can generate income as you wait. But for like us, Mrs. Africa Homes Limited, what we do, we get a place that is not so interior. It is very accessible and also coming up, and we get the plot or the land at a good price, and we subdivide it, and we do housing. We construct a house whereby we invite people to come and own the houses at a very good price. And you find that in terms of return on investment, it is much higher as compared to that person who bought it and kept it there for speculation. It may take 5 or 10 years. But for like us, Mrs. Africa Homes Limited, you come, we buy the parcel of land, and we construct houses. And you find in a matter of 1 year, as we do construction in 10 to 12 months, 10 to 12 months. In that 10 to 12 months, you find that we have managed to add value to the plot by building a house double. You buy our house at 4 million, and in a span of 1 year, you're able to resell your house from 6.5 to 7 million. And you have already created a return on investment of above 2 million. So you see with us as a developer, because we also understand this matrix of the land, we're able to add value at a much higher rate than just buying a parcel of land, waiting, just speculating. We add value to it.
What would be the exit strategy the moment you decide it's okay, now this I have invested on, and this is how we exit from this and getting into another?
That's another beauty of working with people like us, Mrs. Africa Homes Limited, because you buy this parcel of this house, we construct it, and it's ready in 10 to 12 months. You want to resell that house, and you get your return on investment, and you also consume the initial amount that you had put. You are free to do that within 1 year. If you continue, and if you continue to plow back, like you resell this house, then you buy another one, then which is at the initial stage of off-plan, and you sell then after 10 months or 1 year. You find this can be actually an income-generating venture that you have ventured.
All right, and so sourcing of deals or for deals is one thing then that will play out in this, and in most cases, even as we are on the, on that venture of sourcing for deals, you tend to lose it, you tend to get it wrong and all that. So some of these processes, and how then do we get alive to the fact that yes, these deals are in existence? What are some of the most general deals that could be in existence that people could take advantage of? Because again, we all acknowledge that we all are not equally blessed, and so you realize, while I might really need to invest on land, I do not have that capability or capacity.
Sure. The most important thing, and what I normally encourage our customers and our partners, investors and homeowners, is that whenever you get into a certain relationship, let's say you have come to Mrs. Africa Homes Limited, I always encourage for us to walk the journey together. Come in, then you stand on the side and watch. It's a journey that we are walking together. It's good to get involved, get to understand what happens exactly, because if you wait until everything is done, actually you will wonder how did it happen. But if you are walking the journey and you understand maybe some of the challenges that we are going through, you understand some of the other good sides that we are going through, it is something that you will own and you will understand it fully. So in every venture that you are into, or any relationship, it's always good not to get into a relationship, then you wait and you watch. It's always good, you have entered into a match, it's good to be also actively involved.
What are the most common mistakes that are done by people when now they decide that officially we are getting into this strategic land investment, and mistakes that would get them feeling like this was not a wise move to take, questioning why is it that some people are doing so well in this and others are not doing so well?
You find that when somebody gets into a certain deal or something, there is always the expectation that you have from the word go. And you find that at times people have so much expectations that are beyond reasonable. You find somebody, you have gotten into a relationship, you are doing affordable housing, because that is what we are doing. We do as Mrs. Africa Homes Limited. We are doing affordable housing, and we give you an affordable house. But again, you look at the neighbor, they have a very big mansionette, they have very big compound, they have everything, they have a swimming pool, they have everything. And because you had so much expectations and you did not take time to understand and walk the journey, you feel as if you are frustrated because you feel like you have been shortchanged. But the same person tries and goes and asks around for maybe the price of that house that maybe they had dreamt. We are doing affordable, just basic house, a parking, and the electricity is there and everything. You find somebody wants things that are beyond reach, and they go to ask for that, maybe the mansionette, and they are told it's 30 million. And they had invested, let's say, 4 million or 3 point something, and now they can actually get 6 point something. It's a matter of calculations and being also realistic and walking the journey and being you become logical.
Yes. At what point then does asset advisory come in, and just how instrumental is this?
Asset advisory is very crucial, and it sets in very importantly at the initial stage. At the initial stage, because that is where you get to set your expectations and you get to set what you want, and by the time you get it and you have walked the journey, you'll be able to appreciate it. For example, you have invested, let's say, 4 million. In 1 year, you have made your 2 million. Even if which kind of other business you are doing, it's not possible. So it's good to set your, from the word go, to set your goals right. From the word go, you are, as I have put it, your expectations. Expectations.
Okay, well, before we get to close it down, in most cases we have seen some adjustments being done at the level of the ministry. Just how well involved is the ministry, in terms of ensuring that there's a smooth running, there's some smooth process of transition of documents from one person to the other, and generally how instrumental has it been in terms of reducing the insecurities that we witness today, of course courtesy of dishonesty that comes along with the different crafty business people that get into this business of land investment.
Over the past 1 year and with time, we have seen the government getting involved, and actually it has always been involved, but actually coming with the laws, like for example, the laws that were recently passed of title ownership, and recently the Ministry of Land said they are going to change the titles, and these are things that are in the public domain, and it's time that I encourage the people to also get involved. The land question is the most interior question that we have as a country, and land is the biggest resource we have, as much as we have other resources like labor and the other capital, money. The land is the most biggest capital that we have, and we as the citizens, we do not have the luxury to sit back and just wait as things happen, and we just hear in the lands corruption. Like now the government is trying to digitalize things, and the lands ministry now are quite very open, and That's why I encourage people, make those places your friends. Be walking there. If you have questions, understand, because you can only ask a question if you understand. Go understand. So I would encourage the citizens to be involved. There's this law that is saying ABCD. Let's get involved. And nowadays with social media and the media, nowadays we have medias all over, like this one and others. If you get anything that is suspicious, you raise it up. Even the people that are on those offices, they will be concerned. And when we do that, we are going to streamline things, and things of the dubious deals, corruption, these are going to be things of the past.
At what point then does one sit down and say, you know what, I have overcome all that. Probably I have the deed, the title deed with me, and you as an institution also, at what point do you get to that level where you say, you know what, this is a good procedure, this is a clean procedure. As an entity, we are protected from unscrupulous business people, because then we all agree that it's a cartel-driven entity. So while individuals might be conned, you as institutions can get to that point where you're vulnerable to the same. So what measures are being put to ensure that these institutions are well protected?
Sure, true. Land are risky affairs, and that's why you need to involve the professionals that are involved in the land matters. You need to have very good lawyers. You need to have very good surveyors. You need to have to understand, to have even a good relationship with the county commissioners and all the various people involved. The lands registry. You need to have a relationship and to understand. Make them your friends, and if you continue working with the journey, you'll have the information. Because what people lack is information and maybe sometimes time, because somebody is so busy. Before you now start getting to know those things, you are employed, you don't have that time. You only have time to go and rest. But for us, Mizizi Africa Homes Limited, we ensure that we have all those players at our disposal. And before we get to any deal, we involve them, and if there is anything they don't give us an okay, there are so many parcels of land, you just leave it, go to the next. You don't have, like, you find people getting so much attached maybe to something, and that is where people go wrong. You have liked maybe a certain cloth. You are buying, let's say, a cloth as an example, or a house. Let's use a house. You really like it, and you let your emotions take control. You don't go the extra mile to do the due diligence, because you have already fallen in love. But for us, like the land, we take it as just a stock. The way you don't put emotions to stock when you are selling maybe sugar, the same way when you are selling, you are dealing with the land and everything. Even if you are buying a cloth, if you love it so much, you will actually be sold at a higher price, because the person selling will see, she has already loved it. So if she's selling at 1,500, they will tell you 3,000, because they know you will buy at 2,500.
All right, that's interesting, And like we always say, as risky as it may be, we always get ourselves there. And most of the people who've invested on land will tell you they have never regretted. I doubt there's a point where we're going to get to, this talk that, at a level that land has depreciated. We can never get to that point.
It will never be there, and that's why I encourage, start early. Do it a parcel of, with time you will become a pro on the same.
And there are very, very many arrangements that one can actually get to acquire land with, even without you having to have the entire amount and all that. So why don't you walk into
Mizizi Africa Homes Limited,
and try and find out whether there's a deal for you. Yes, and that is George Mburu, the CEO of Mizizi Africa Homes. It was good having you this morning, and we're looking forward to have more and more conversations on matters land, because like we say every day, as it motivates